Hello and welcome to Rewind Reviews, a podcast that has been, for you, only a week since you last heard from us, but for us, it's been like 2 months. Isn't that crazy, Chris? When was the last time we recorded? A million years ago.
Really? Is this the first Rewind Reviews with you in South Korea?
Yes. So the last time we recorded a Rewind Review was the movie Face Off. I don't remember how long ago that was, Chris, but I'm going to tell you now, it was a long time.
I remember two dudes swapped their faces.
I remember that too.
much.
I remember that too. I also recall that element of the movie. I honestly think we're talking like 13th of August. And it's now, for context for listeners, the 4th of October. That's the last time we recorded a Rewind Review.
Wow. It was. So according to my calendar, it was the 12th of August.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. That sounds right. That sounds correct. Yeah, wow. So it's been a while, huh? You gonna do the thing?
Wow.
Because I said it's been a while?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. People of our age have to do that legally, or they take away our passport and put us in jail.
I saw...
we get put in millennial jail if we don't do the stained thing.
I saw a thing. It was what I can't remember what song they did it with now, which is really frustrated. Let's say they did it with, I don't think they did, but let's say they did it with My Chemical Romance, and it was called Playing Hide and Seek with Emo Kids from the noughties, and it was this guy looking for someone, and then he just went boom, and from the cupboard he heard When I Was. He went, damn it, you got me again. But I don't think it was with My Chemical Romance. It might have been with Dear Maria or something by All Time Low.
That's very funny.
But yeah, it was very funny.
I do enjoy that. It's one of those things, isn't it, where like you sort of like, I don't know, man. Good.
I know what song it was. Sorry to interrupt you. It was Blink 182. So what they did was they went, "Where are you?" And the bloke went, "I'm so sorry." And he was like, "There you are. You're in the cupboard." Good,
yeah, we're easily manipulated as millennials. Marketing companies have realized this, I feel. TikTok and Instagram algorithms have also figured this out about us, unfortunately. There's a reason you were served that content.
This isn't overly relevant to the podcast, but and maybe I'm a bit out of date on this, and this happened over the summer, but I went through a bit of a deep dive and a bit of a hole the other day because I discovered that like all American Rejects have had this massive resurgence in the States over the last year, including like a load of like shows in people's gardens and at universities where they just essentially turn up and just play until they get like kicked out by the police. And just like, oh wow,
it's so funny. I went on a real All American Rejects kick in Australia, like at the end of 2023, early 2024. I did 4 or 5 months of just listening to a huge amount of All American Rejects for no real reason. And there'd been new stuff they'd released that like later than the stuff I was familiar with, but wasn't new. But it was new to me because I'd not listened to them for a long time. So that was really funny. But yeah, looking at it here, they seem to have made a return. Like it's like I summoned them. It's like because they sort of mid 2024 to the end of 2024 is when they started sort of being active again. It looks like, according to this, and the new album was announced and sorted out, through this across 2025. It just feels like me in late 2023, early 2024, listening to them just sort of like woke them up. like I disturbed the like I was at the top of the volcano and I threw a rock in, and then before I knew it, there was smoke and flames and lava everywhere.
They were like, Dan's listening, let's go.
Who wakes me from my slumber? I'm sorry, All American Rejects. I didn't mean to.
Like, I've watched loads of clips of them being like, right, we're gonna do one more song, and we know what that song is. I didn't realise that like the song
Gives
for
You
them
Hell.
was Gives You Hell.
Yeah.
I assumed it was Dirty Little Secret or even Swing Swing. Like that was weird to me. I was like, oh, that's like the song.
Yeah, I realized that's to Gives You Hell is a song I realized was their song when I went back to them. And I love Gives You Hell. It's really good. Like, I was pleasantly surprised. Like, I hadn't really heard that song. I wasn't too familiar with that song. I knew them like you for like Swing Swing And there was one other one from that same album that was really good as well. Like,
Is it moves along?
No, it wasn't. No, that's a little later. Moves along, I think, because Swing Swing is like 2022.
It ends tonight.
Maybe.
Darkness turns to light.
1 second. I need to. I'm definitely not going to be able to think of it if you keep singing different songs. Wait, what was it? Oh man, maybe I'm thinking of a different band with this one. There's a song I'm thinking of. It's like on the tip of my tongue what it's called. Oh, it's going to kill me, that. No, I'm going to have to forget. Yeah, but Gives You Hell is the one that I sort of was one of the newer songs I discovered that I didn't know when I sort of got back into them, because that's well after my time listening to them, because that's like 2008.
So looking at this, if it means anything, it charted in the same position in the UK as Dirty Little Secret, so maybe that's why. And Swing Swing did chart higher in the UK than either of those tracks, so yeah, maybe it's that.
Well, there you go. Anyway, we're supporting the All American Rejects here on Rewind.
Oh, I'm glad that. And what they're doing looks fun as fuck. Like, just literally turning up at colleges and playing. I think that's awesome. What a great way of doing it.
Yes.
Like, cool.
Yes.
I'm in.
Yeah. The other one was that I remember from that era, American Hi-Fi as well. They were also really good.
Yeah.
They had
was it the
they had
last
the breakup song and Another
song
Perfect Day, and they had a song called Vertigo that was really good as well. Flavor of the Week was a good one. That's an American Hi-Fi one. That's really good.
Yeah, I remember that one.
The breakup song.
Who did that? Who did Try Honesty? Try Honesty.
Oh, that's Billy Talent.
Enemy.
Billy Talent.
And My Own Worst
Billy
Enemy
Talent.
was, I think, a band called Lit. Is that right?
Yes. Lit. That's right. I love Lit. But no, Billy Talent. Billy Talent are one of those bands though that, like, they had a big hit that a lot of people know them for, Try Honesty, but I continued to follow, and I was a huge fan of their second album, and I think even the third one. Like, Billy Talent 2 is an amazing album, and no one listens to it. It's just me.
Well, the biggest album for that, for the biggest band, for that for you is Alien Ant Farm as well.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, because everyone knows Anthology, but I followed them through Truant. Like, I continued, and was it called Gods and something? That I listened to that one a lot as well. And CKY too. That's another one.
Yeah, I didn't even realize CKY released any more than that.
They had like 4 or 5 albums. They were great. I was a big fan. Wow. But yeah.
Wow. Alien Ant Farm released their 6th album last year.
Yeah. It's good. It's also good. I like Alien Ant Farm. I stand by Alien Ant Farm. Anyway, music from our youth behind us. Let's talk about movies from our youth. From the same era, actually. And we're probably going to talk a little bit about music when we discuss this film.
Yeah.
Because this is, the All American Rejects kind of like released the last, I think they released, I think Swing Swing is 2002, which is the same year this movie comes out. So, we are clearly in the right mindset for About a Boy, which was technically Chris's choice, but technically my choice. There was the disaster of the wheel. For those who don't remember, Chris decided that the theme for this season for him was going to be that he doesn't make the choices himself. He prompts them from elsewhere, and he got a bunch of friends to like submit films for us to cover, and he was pretty excited about it, and he put them all in a big wheel online, and it was span, and it was going to choose, and then right at the last second Chris was like, oh yeah, you should throw a choice in, Dan.
Yeah. And there were like 89 or 90 films on this list. Like, there was a lot of films. And it was, as you said, one of the key things is how last minute it was, that it was like, oh, Dan, you pick something, I'll chuck your choice on.
Yeah. And I can't remember how many. I thought there were only like 20 or 30 films on that list, but like either way, the list was fucking massive. It was absurd. Yeah. Like, it was anything above 10 movies makes it unlikely that About a Boy comes up. Do you know what I mean? Like, as soon as you start hitting 20, 30, the chance of that coming up is so slim. So I threw it in, like, really, and then it landed on it, and I was like, well, if it had been a movie we really didn't want to do, we'd have forced ourselves to. So I'm not going to say no to when it gives us a movie I actually would like to rewatch. So the thing is, we had such a gap in recording. I actually had time to go off and read the About a Boy book between then and now. So I've read the book in the last few months, and it didn't take me to that. I just read it within them. I actually read it on the flight here. to South Korea.
It's Nick Hornby, right?
Was that so? Yes, Nick Hornby. Yes. Who I'm a big fan of. I'm a huge fan of Nick Hornby. How to Be Good's amazing. High Fidelity's amazing. I never cared for his. What was the football book he did? The one that kind of got him famous.
Fever Pitch.
Fever Pitch. Yeah, I don't care for Fever Pitch, but like I love his other stuff. Long Way Down's amazing.
I can say Long Way Down's great, and Long Way Down has one of those bizarre film adaptations where it's like it's just a really watchable movie. It's not amazing, it's not incredible, but it's just a really solid watchable movie with a phenomenal cast. I'm pretty sure it's Toni Collette, Piers Brosnan, and Aaron Paul.
Yeah. And even like in his later years, like there's books that he's put out that are famously not good that I actually really like. People don't like Juliet Naked. I love Juliet Naked. It's an amazing book. I think that's such a fun book. And like,
is that the one about looking for she's looking for an old rock god or something?
So her boyfriend is obsessed with an old, or maybe her fiance is obsessed with an old rock star.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And there's this mysterious, unreleased album. So the album was called Juliet, and then there's like another version called Juliet Naked, which is acoustic early demos of all of the songs that were on Juliet, and it mythically exists, but no one knows where it is. So she ends up, I think initially she's frustrated at her partner's obsession with the album, and then she reaches out through a message board about it and says that the album wasn't even that good to begin with, and she gets a reply, and it ends up turning out to be the actual rock star who ends up coming to England, and like it's a whole love triangle between the guy who's obsessed with the rock star himself, and the wife. And it's a really fun book. I think they did a film of it. I never saw the film, but there is a film. I'm sure. I don't think it's got the same name. Maybe it has got the same.
It has. No, it has. I'm just looking the film up, so it's got the same name. And again,
oh my god,
the
that
leads
cast.
are Rose Byrne, Ethan Hawke, and Chris O'Dowd.
Yeah, have a guess who's playing who in that scenario. Just have a guess.
Well, I assume Ethan Hawke is the rock star.
Yeah. Rose
Byrne is the woman, and Chris O'Dowd is the boyfriend.
Their boyfriend that's obsessed with the music. That's really funny. I might go to that. So after we've done this, I might watch the trailer for that because that sounds fun. Anyway, the film we're covering this week is About a Boy. Now, in terms of
I've checked. By the way, it wasn't quite 80, but it also wasn't quite 10. There were 54 films on the list.
Yeah,
So you made it because
if you'd have asked me to guess,
this is the list I copied and pasted. Yeah.
If you'd have asked me to guess, I'd have said 30. But like, it's yeah. I said even 10 would have even
made it 55.
10 would have been too many. Like in terms of the odds of About a Boy cropping up.
Yeah, and there were some good films on here. Not that About a Boy. Yeah, we'll talk about. But yeah. So you'd have made it 55 with About a Boy because About a Boy isn't on here because again it was like literally just before spinning. I'll chuck a choice on for you.
Absolutely mad. Anyway, so we watched About a Boy. Now this is a film.
What made you want to rewatch it?
It was a weird one actually. I had, for whatever reason, had been humming one of the songs from it because the soundtrack to this movie is a full album in of itself, and I'm going to put it out there: a full album I really love, like as an album. Forget the movie for a second. The About a Boy soundtrack by an artist from Manchester, which is where I'm from, called Badly Drawn Boy, is just an amazing album, start to finish. It's really, really playful and fun, but catchy. It's packed with like emotion, but like quite. The emotions are sort of the emotions of the movie, which are quite sweet and sometimes tongue in cheek. And when I was younger, I loved this film, but I really liked this soundtrack. And I've listened to the soundtrack way more than I've ever watched this movie. And I'm way more familiar with the soundtrack than I am with the movie. So it's almost weird to watch the film now because every time, there's Silent Sight. Oh, that melody's from that track. And like I know the songs in and out, so like it's really strange. But I had just been re-listening to the album, and I'd gone, God, that was a fun film. Like I'd like to rewatch that. So when you said, do you want to, throw a choice in? And I was like, I don't know if I can think of one quick enough. I'd like that morning been listening to the soundtrack. So I was just like, About a Boy. Why not? Because I would like to see that again. So yeah, we landed on it. Now, in terms of my history of the film, I mean, I don't know if I certainly didn't see this in the cinema. I certainly didn't see this like the when it came out immediately. But I certainly. I think it's plausible I saw this on VHS when it came out, but I think even more likely this might have been a year or two later I saw it on TV, maybe, rather than something I rented. Because I don't think immediately a movie like this is something I jumped to go see in my youth, truth be told. Not a massive Hugh Grant fan back in the day. I didn't care for Bridget Jones's Diary. Notting Hill was fine, but not my thing. So like About a Boy comes out and it's like I get it, it's like a comedy in that vein, but it's not a romantic one as such, although there's elements of that obviously. But I'm looking at it and thinking like, I don't know if I care about this movie. Like, so I don't think I see this straight away. I think I see this a couple years later on TV, and when I do, delighted by it. I think it's a really fun movie, and it's actually what then inspires me to start reading Nick Hornby books, and I read tons of Nick Hornby from seeing this film. And man, he is a master of taking small human situations and extracting the utmost comedy and drama from them. He doesn't tell big stories usually. He finds really small nooks and crannies of human experience and like drills into them. How to Be Good's a great example of that. And and I remember just being fascinated by these books about very, very minuscule subject matters. Like, I mean, some of them are a bit bigger. Obviously, Long Way Down is like is a much heftier topic to be tackling. But even that's tackled from a very personal perspective. So yeah, I see the film, adore the film and the music, and then it sticks with me. And over the years, I think of the music or the film, and I rewatch it every now and then, and it becomes a sort of a favorite, like almost like a classic. So yeah, I'm a massive fan of this movie, and was very excited to rewatch it because I haven't seen it in it's been at least. I feel like it's been at least sort of like 7-8 years since I've seen this film, maybe a little longer. Because for a while I watched it every couple of years, just as like out of habit. That eventually sort of, as these things do, sort of fizzled out. That habit. So yeah, but that's it definitely holds a a special place in my sort of like my memory of it. Like I have very fond memories of this film. I think of it very fondly and very dearly. How about you? You'd seen this before, right? I assume this feels like it was up your street.
Yeah, I'd seen the film. I think this was one of those things where the film was in the house, if you see what I mean. But I don't think I owned it. I don't think. Maybe right. I did, but it was definitely in the house. Possibly even in like a box set, maybe with Notting Hill.
Sure. Or Bridget Jones as a triple pack. I think I've seen that.
Yeah, and I can't remember when. I think Notting Hill was a big gap, and then eventually I saw Notting Hill as well. But I think it was sort of those Sunday, shall we watch a film? Someone else gets a pick, but I don't mind because I'm happy to watch it. Films in that, like you, it wouldn't necessarily have been the film I reached for, but I did enjoy them. And it's funny, we were talking last night about actors where if you had to pick an actor and had to watch every film in their sort of canon. Which actor are you picking? And I think Hugh Grant is a great shout for that. There's variety. There's different genres. There's family films. Certainly, there's more adult films.
Certainly later in his career, because I feel like what happened with Hugh Grant was he went, found something he was good at, did it a fucking bunch, made an absolute boatload of money, made sort of the equivalent to fuck you money. And then, I feel like now, and he's in a stage of his career now where he's just like, what's interesting to me? I have enough money, so now I'll just do the things that I think sound really fun. Which is I totally respect that choice. And so therefore, his filmography starts, lots and lots of rom-coms, just lots and lots of rom-coms, and sort of
but a lot of them are good. There's some shit in there. There's music and lyrics.
Yeah, I was just about to name those two exact movies. They weren't all hits. Music and lyrics is not good, but he's usually reliable in all of his films, though. I would say that's for sure.
I struggle with music and lyrics because it's the one time that it's the most distinct that I have this. I had a major operation in my second year of uni, which Dan knows about, but we don't need to go into the details. But I was in a lot of pain after, basically, and it turns out. You go.
Well, I was just saying we should clarify for American listeners: surgery. He wasn't like in a military operation. Yeah. He wasn't called to be part of the SAS on a secret operation.
Yeah, no, I had surgery and basically basically shouldn't have been the wound got left when it should have been the wound wasn't treated the right way a week later when I went back in searing pain they were like, oh. So I can't think of music. I watched music and lyrics like that night, like getting back, and I don't think I could watch that film. Like, I genuinely think it would take
trigger something.
So it's hard for me to judge music and lyrics, to be honest, with just how bad a film it is. But anyway,
that's interesting. I think I saw
series one. Scrubs series one. I'd struggle with.
Which one? Sorry.
Scrubs series one. Because I watched that as well.
I just rewatched Scrubs series 1, and I forgot until we were rewatching it how much they committed to the idea that originally the janitor was just in JD's head.
Yeah.
For the first season, he literally never talks to anyone but JD, and like anytime he does, it's kind of within a full fantasy sequence. So it's like they really were very careful about that, and then they never actually pulled the trigger on revealing that, which is interesting. Anyway, So in that case, then, so you saw the movie at some point, and I'm guessing then maybe it's a little bit less thought of fondly for you because it sounds like you kind of watched it, enjoyed it, forgot about it. Is that am I assessing that correctly?
Yeah, sort of. To the point where I didn't even really. I knew what the climax of the movie was, so I guess to some degree, spoilers. I knew it ended with the performance. I knew he didn't have a career because he was living off of royalties from a Christmas song his dad wrote, and that was sort of it. And I obviously knew Nicholas Hoult was in it. I thought everyone knew Nicholas Hoult was in it. I thought that was quite a well-known thing. And then the movie ended and the credits started to roll, and I had the glorious moment of watching Jess go, "Nicholas Hoult," and I was like. Yeah, so very clearly Nicholas Hoult. We've been
watching Lex Luthor this whole time.
She had no idea. She was like, "That's Nicholas Hoult. Am I thinking of the right person?" I was like, "Yeah, you are. It's Nicholas Hoult." Anyway, so I remembered that, but I'll be honest, like some of the tougher subplots, about his mum and stuff, I didn't remember.
So that was.
I couldn't remember the conceit. I couldn't remember the conceit of how this boy and this man ended up spending so much time together.
Yeah.
That was interesting to watch that unfold, and I think it's kind of a fascinating movie in that regard because to start touching on reviews and stuff, and I'll go to you first because I think it's more interesting to go to the person that had the stronger emotion about it to begin with. But I thought it was a fascinating watch in that, like you say, it came out in 2002, and some elements of those things are handled so beautifully and so not of the time, and some elements are handled so of the time. And I was like, this is a strange juxtaposition between this movie doing, I think, some really forward-thinking, almost modern approaches to this subject, and then also some things which, I mean, maybe you could argue show the other side and are about more the perception of those things, perhaps. And actually, I think you could make an argument for those things even in a movie now, because you're like, well, that's the point. The characters have it wrong. Some of the terminology used to describe his mum in particular is obviously what I'm thinking of. So I thought that element of the film, which I wouldn't have been able to pull from my mind because I haven't seen it in so long, I thought was in a way one of the most fascinating elements of it. So how did you feel on rewatch, given you had such high affection for the movie?
Yeah, well, it's a different experience, isn't it? Because I remember the movie, so I'm waiting for the moment when the penny drops, so to speak, with the mother, where when he gets home, the dead duck day, as he refers to it. Even from the minute I said, let's do About a Boy, I was thinking about how that might hold up in a modern context. And I was wondering about exactly how the movie handled it. I remembered the scene. And I couldn't quite remember how confidently they lent into the drama of it. There's a sequence from the book removed, which I'm sad about. But I must admit, I'd forgotten the sequence from the book until I reread it. So if I'd have just watched the movie without reading the book, I wouldn't have known that was missing. But there's a couple of things that they've changed. I'll be honest with you, it's really faithful. That was a pleasant surprise. But yeah, I think when you sit down to watch it, when you've got quite fond memories of the film, I already remembered a lot of the big sort of the big storyline progression moments were locked in my brain, basically. So there weren't any sort of surprises for me in that nature. I'm almost jealous of you being able to watch it almost cold with a modern lens and almost like cleanly. I knew what was coming, but I was again really pleasantly surprised with how close they kept it to the material in the book. And I think a lot of the stuff that's this movie's strongest material, if I'm being honest, is stuff they've taken from the book. But because it's so close to the book, that's fine. Like, yeah, why wouldn't you take these great jokes and these great moments from this already very well-written thing that you've been handed as your sort of starting point? Like, it'd be insane to not do that, right? So, I had a really, really good time rewatching it. I think the performances, bar one issue, are amazing. I want to particularly shout out one actor later that I did not appreciate back in the day, and even now, like I'm willing to bet his name isn't on your immediate list of performances to shout out in this movie. But the kid that plays Ali is just one of the funniest performances ever. Like, I will come back to him properly in a minute. But I think
his flitting between like tones is just phenomenal.
So good. The actor's name I looked up is Augustus Prue. And I just want to, I don't know what he's done since. He might have continued to work consistently. He might have decided that acting wasn't for him. Or either way, I just want, if he ever hears this, and it's unlikely, let's be honest, but just in the very small chance that actor stumbles across this review and isn't sure if he'll even be mentioned, because it's a small part relative to the movie, I just want him to know how much he made me laugh. In that, every minute, phenomenal. Every second he was on screen, I was chuckling because he was so good comedically in the movie. And as Chris pointed out, his ability to flick between some very strong emotions was amazing. So yeah, if anyone knows Augustus Prue, please tell him from me how good a job I thought he did, because I was absolutely blown away. I thought he was so good in this movie. But anyway, so yeah, I had a really good time going back to it. I thought it was it tackled some really interesting plots. It definitely wasn't the sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? The sort of like teethless fluff, the toothless fluff that you got in a lot of these sort of Hugh Grant movies, the things like your music and lyrics, where it's like the movie has nothing to say. And again, that comes from the book, but they were smart to continue to use the things from the book to make this work. So yeah, I'm a big fan of what they did with this film. I think it's fantastic, and I think the outcome is incredible. It's funny when it needs to be funny. It's heartfelt when it needs to be heartfelt. It balances its tones mostly very well, with a few minor exceptions, but I don't think anyone's going to really come across those. There's brilliant performances pretty much all round, with one exception we'll get to. And like, yeah, I had a great time rewatching it. I had a really good time. And then you add that music that I already love. Oh, come on. Yeah, so I'm pleased to say that this is going to be getting a massive recommend to it from me. I love this movie with all my heart. It's very good. And I'm so relieved that it held up.
Augustus Prue is still very much working.
Is he?
He's been in, he's been in Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. He's been in 1923. He's been in he had a reoccurring role in The Morning Show.
Oh, good for him. What does he look like these days? Let's pull him up. So it's because the thing is, right? It's that Nicholas Hoult.
Good-looking man.
It's that Nicholas Hoult thing, though, isn't it? Where like, he's obviously his face has changed a lot. So if he was in something I've watched, which it sounds like he has been in, I watched The Morning Show and I've watched Rings of Power. The chances of me recognizing him from this are slim to none, I would say.
Oh yeah, of course,
because he probably looks very different. Yeah, he's a handsome man. But yeah, he's look, I'm glad he's still working. I'm thrilled about that. He's very talented. Anyway, so yeah, let's get more into the sort of the nitty gritty, Chris.
Well, let's rip the I would recommend it as well. By the way, I would. I think it's a very charming film, and I like the fact that it doesn't even for sort of even for British dramas, it doesn't ramp up. Like obviously, it's a British rom-com directed by Richard Curtis. It's not going to build to fucking, a Skybeam, but even for that genre, like the stakes and what it builds to are so personal and human that I think it works so well. Like, you compare, no one's running through an airport, no one's, whatever. Like, I think it's, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So I would really recommend it. Listen, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off, baby, because I'm not 100% sure who you're talking about. So let's. I don't hate to start negative, but who do you think is the one performance that you really don't think holds up?
Okay, this is going to be very controversial, and it's more complicated than that. It's a bit more complicated than performance, because I actually think the performance is excellent. What they're bringing to the role, the character is incredible. The accent is a fucking mess. And it's deeply distracting and hurts what is otherwise a really impassioned performance. And I'm sorry to say it, because I believe she is maybe one of the greatest actresses on the planet.
Oh, wow.
It's Toni Collette.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
Her accent's a fucking mess in this movie.
You had to be talking about one of the main three, and I was like, I think it's controversial no matter who you're talking about.
It's Toni Collette. And here's the thing. I genuinely believe Toni Collette's one of the greatest actresses on the face of this earth. I believe that with all my heart. And I think she was an amazing actress, but long before this movie. Muriel's Wedding is a masterpiece too. And she's amazing in it in terms of her performance. Muriel's Wedding isn't one of my favourite movies of all time. I will say this. It's not one of my favourites. Nadia loves it. I've seen it a couple of times now. It's good. Not great. But she's amazing in it, right? It's such a honest performance. And obviously she hadn't quite shaken the Aussie accent yet. And she was clearly working with a dialect coach for this movie. But my God, did they let her down. It's fucking disastrous. And it might be because having lived in Australia for a year, I'm hearing the twang more. It's tickling my ear in a way where I'm noticing it more. Maybe someone who's not as familiar with the Australian accent doesn't hear some of the sounds that are identifying that. But my God, it's bad, Chris. It is close to disastrous in terms of that is just not how any human on the earth sounds, but I will accept just not how a British person sounds. It's bad. Did you not notice at all? Am I crazy?
No, I really didn't. Which maybe backs up that it is the Australia thing.
Yes,
maybe.
Yeah,
but no, I didn't. I thought her performance was great. I thought it was very gentle and very real and powerful.
I want to clarify the performance part,
which I appreciate. You're not disagreeing with that.
Correct.
I get that.
Yeah, I'm saying that is undercut quite strongly by the accent problem. It's like she can give it the best performance she wants, but if that's wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like if I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know, someone like Mariah Carey, who's the best singer ever, right? If she comes out and she's singing the best she's ever sung,
is she?
But no. I'm just picking someone who's got a powerful voice.
She's no Alien Ant Farm.
I'm just theoretical. Stick with me. She
comes out. I feel like you missed that. So I'm going to repeat it. I know I'm stepping on your point, but she's no Alien Ant Farm, Dan.
Oh, yeah, I did miss that. That's very good. Very good. I just didn't want you to make it a whole semantic thing about whether she's the best singer, because that was well beside my point. And I've done enough podcasts with you, Chris, to know how quickly that something like that can a semantic point like that can derail any sort of point. My point is, right, that if she comes out and she's singing the best she's ever sung, and it's amazing, and it's her powerful voice, and it's all that stuff, right? But she's singing the wrong song. And the music in the song doesn't match up. She's. I'm trying to think what I don't. I should have picked an artist I know more than one song of. What did Mariah Carey do other than the Christmas one?
I don't know. Did she do a song called "We Belong Together"? I think.
Yeah, okay, she did. So it's like they're playing We Belong Together, but she's singing All I Want for Christmas Is You. And it's like she's singing it amazingly, and that's really impressive and what she's doing, but it's the wrong song. So she's giving an amazing performance in this movie, but it's the wrong accent. Like, so it's and no matter how impressive it is, it's always going to be marred by that, unfortunately. And I hate to say it because I love Toni Collette. So, but yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. Very distracting. I hate it.
Fair. Let's just see. I'm on a list here of best female vocalists of all time. Let's see where Mariah. Fourth.
Okay. You're going to struggle to debate me on that then, aren't you?
No, I'm not debating you anyway. I don't know enough about the technicalities of singing. There's a little song I sing to our daughter, and I did it yesterday in front of our friend, and our friend was like, "I don't understand what you've just done," and I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "The singing and the rhythm, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, what are you like? I've never known anything so off tune." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Chris, most songs are like it's beats of 4." Mm-hmm. Like it's like, so you have like 8, 8, 4, 4, 2, 8, 8, 4. Mm-hmm. She was like, you're doing like 4 and then 3 and then like 6 and then 2 and then 8. She was like, I don't understand. So no, I don't have the technical knowledge to debate you. Even
I have made it very clear in the past that I also feel this way about your attempts to sing.
Just for the record, for people interested, Celine Dion, Aretha Franklin, and Whitney Houston were the names above.
Sure. Oh yeah, I could have picked any of those girls, those ladies. I need to say girls. That would have been terrible. All amazing women, and very, very powerful singers. But yeah, Mariah Carey was the first one that came to mind.
You know who else is an amazing woman? Do you know who else is an amazing woman? Toni Collette. So you know,
she is.
Let's have a little damn respect.
I feel bad.
Should have been nominated for an Oscar for Hereditary. Apparently, I've never seen it.
You've never seen Hereditary? Oh, you should see Hereditary. No. That's a fucking good movie. I love Hereditary. Anyway, my point is, that's a problem for me. But other than that, like my notes on the movie are pretty minor in terms of like criticisms, because they did such a good job, I think, on the whole, like handling it. I think when you take a book with a lot of really complex ideas, there's a few ways you can try and approach this. And one of the ways you could probably do it is like remove stuff. And they've done a bit of that, but I think what they've actually done quite effectively here is they've just condensed everything. There's just like extra scenes that go deeper into things that are missing, or like sequences where like characters have conversations and the conversations still happen in this movie, just sort of a bit more summarized. So in the book, the conversation about like when Marcus is sort of realizing that he's not had a lot of agency in his life. You know, did you always know I'd be a vegetarian? Like, that conversation is a much bigger deal and a much bigger moment and a much longer conversation in the book. They have the conversation here, but it's much shorter, it's much quicker, and then we move on. And they get the point across without me feeling shortchanged with what it's doing for the characters. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job sort of like communicating all of the complex emotions all these characters are feeling across what are otherwise quite funny scenes. Like, the balance is hard to get, right? Because if you lean too much into comedy, you're going to make a maybe more entertaining movie, but then it won't have the impact the book has, it won't have the meaning the book has. You can hurt that, or you can lean too far towards the sort of the emotional side of the book, but then it's not as entertaining a movie. So like, there's a real tightrope walk happening in every single scene in this movie, and I think they kind of nailed it. I don't know. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I'm gonna say something really dumb. I think Nick Hornby books are a page count and a complexity, or maybe there's a, like you've already said, there's a focus on the personal and the human that make his books easier to adapt than most. So I was trying to think of another example when I've just checked the page count. So The Time Traveler's Wife, for example. More complex book in terms of story than a Nick Hornby book, I think it's fair to say, because we're juggling with multiple times. Page count is a lot. Page count is about 500 and something. 528 pages, some 546. About a Boy as a book is 288 pages. Like, I think that's both, and the story is really focused on the personal, whereas The Time Traveler's Wife is personal, but there's also an element of sci-fi to it, to be honest. And I think that it's a really Nick Hornby books for those reasons. You can adapt if you're willing. And I think people were more willing then. If you're willing to commit to the fact that the big finale moment is a boy standing on a stage and singing at a school talent contest, if you're willing to commit to that, which less films do these days, although there are some examples. 8th Grade, for example, has a very similar sort of climactic moment, which is quite small but huge for the characters. Then I think Hornby books are really ripe for adaptation, and that's why even as you named earlier, Juliet Naked isn't considered to be one of his better books, but it has a film adaptation. Like I think most of his work does.
So, do you think that comes down to just character versus plot then? Because there's obviously a lot of character stuff happening in The Time Traveler's Wife, but it is also a plot-heavy book. Lots of things.
Yeah. I think
regardless of whether it being sci-fi or whatever the genre is, the content is there is a huge amount of story you're going to have to cram in, and you have to cover the story. So if you want to squeeze that into a film, you're going to have to lose character stuff. Whereas Hornby's books, the plots are usually quite thin is the wrong word because thin feels like an insult, but they're usually deliberately small scale so we can properly dig into the character stuff, which allows a film to do it without feeling rushed or overstuffed.
And don't get me wrong, I think there's some plot stuff in this movie that actually I don't love, and I'd be intrigued as to whether it's handled better in the book, because I think the film made a conscious choice, like the book, to focus on character. I think that's absolutely it, as you've just described. But to use an example, I don't like the fact that, what's Hugh Grant's character's name?
Will.
I don't like the fact that Will fucking lies again about having a child. He lies about having a child. He gets caught out spectacularly. He looks like a knob. And then there's a woman he genuinely cares about, and he just does the same thing again. And I don't know if that's handled and justified better in the book, but I don't think it's particularly justified in the film. It doesn't break the film. Like I say, really enjoyed it, would recommend it. But it was the one element where I was like, well, I'm slightly on the verge of losing interest here, because I don't understand why you're doing this again when it went so spectacularly wrong last time. How do you not realise that this is going to... Especially when I think the first time it goes wrong and he cocks up and he realises his mistake, and he's just trying to find women to sleep with and then get dumped by. Then he does it when he's found someone that he knowingly and says that he likes and feels differently about. So why do the thing that fucked up and blew up in your face with people you didn't particularly care about to the person that you do care about? It was just I guess they try and justify it with the whole, well, he doesn't actually lie, she makes an assumption and he doesn't correct her. I don't know. Is that handled better in the book, or did you butt up against that at all in the film? What's your view on that?
It's handled with more information in the book. I would say what's there still functions for me, but I'd say so the reason he does it a second time in both the book and the film, although it's less explained in the film, so it's easier to miss, is so the first time it's purely shallow, right? It's what we're learning about Will as a character at the beginning of the film, and we're getting it when we're sort of checking the temperature, so to speak, of that character, is he's a shallow man that wants to sleep with more women, and he's making up a child to do that. What we learn about Will after he's had these, the first 2/3 of the movie, or the first half of the movie, these experiences with Marcus, and he has changed, but not completely. What we learn about Will in that moment is actually about his insecurities, and it's clearer in the book, I would say. But basically, what happens is he goes to this meal with the character who's called Rachel, but in this case, he's played by the brilliant Rachel Weisz, and he's talking to her, and he finds her interesting. He finds her compelling as a human being, and suddenly he realizes how empty his life is. He realizes he's offering nothing to a person like this. She's a really interesting person with thoughts and feelings and a career and a life, and like she's fascinating to him, and he's, as he phrases it in the film, blank. He's nothing. And he starts talking to her, and at first he's being honest, and he says, I do nothing. And then she starts to lose interest in him, because quite rightly, he doesn't seem like there's much going on in there. And for someone who's smart and charming and interesting as she is supposed to be, and it's described in the book and is presented as here, he panics, and then he realizes, and he's so close to the truth here, that's not necessarily true anymore. He is no longer blank. He is actually becoming a really decent person. And what he's done, he doesn't even see how wonderful it is. He has supported this child through a really tough time for no gain, and developed this really, really very sweet relationship with a struggling youth. And it's like he gets so close to understanding that Marcus is what is him changing, him becoming a more interesting person, him becoming a person that has more to say and do for himself than just, I can sort of play the guitar and I know about cool clothes and cool music, and I watch a lot of daytime TV. You know what I mean? Like he's becoming less shallow. He's becoming more of a person with like an actual like life outside of just his own selfish stuff. And he's so close to understanding that, but he doesn't quite get there. So how it ends up manifesting is he realizes sort of that Marcus is what makes him interesting, but isn't quite brave enough to explain the reality of it. Also because it's on the surface. I'm kind of interesting. I have a really interesting relationship with a 12-year-old. Doesn't sound great, to be fair. So I think what the film is doing is that scene for me is checking in on how he's changed. He is still doing the same thing, but for very different reasons. And it's him getting closer and closer to realizing that one of the things that's making him special is actually his heart, his ability to empathize with this child. In the book, there's a scene, it's still in the film, but it's described properly, where he's on the couch with Marcus, and Marcus explains how he still thinks about his mum's suicide. And he just goes, fucking hell. And in the book, we get Marcus's monologue, internal thoughts in that moment. And Marcus says that actually made him feel better, because everyone else doesn't know how to talk to him about it. No one else is being real with him. And Will is the first person that just acts like, yeah, that sucks. That's awful. And everyone else is trying to make Marcus not think about it or feel it. But he does feel it, so it makes him feel weird. But Will's the first person that makes him feel like it's okay for that to be not okay. Does that make sense? And like, so Will's greatest strength as a character in this moment, and admittedly, a lot of this is coming from extra context I have from having read the book. I appreciate that for sure. And I said this at the beginning, the movie doesn't cover it anywhere near as in depth. But I really think that moment is Will on that journey to becoming someone who's not only a better person, but has realized that about himself. He realizes it about himself right at the end. And that's our climax, which is very different from the climax of the book. We'll get to that. I'm excited to talk to you about that because, you've described the scale of the climaxes, and I'm curious to talk today because let me tell you, they dialed it up for this. The school singing thing is not in the book at all. That's them movieing the film. Oh, wow. Yeah, I know. Even though it seems like a really small scale thing, it's very different to the book. That's where I feel about that. So I didn't mind it. I agree that the movie doesn't get a chance to explain. I think the movie gets to Rachel a little too late. The book also gets to her very late, but I think the movie gets to her even later in terms of like the grand scheme of the story. And I think it's because they put their focus on making the relationship believable between Marcus and Will, because I feel like if you rush through that, then your whole movie is dead. So I would rather have rushed a bit through the Ellie and Rachel relationships to Marcus and Will, rather than rushing the Marcus and Will relationship, if that makes sense. One of them is more important to the story than the other. So I'm glad we did it that way around. But yeah, I think both Marcus's relationship with Ellie and Will's relationship with Rachel are shortchanged compared to the book, which means that there are things about them that feel strange and maybe out of place. So yeah, but I really do like. I really think they cover it as best they can, even if it's not particularly clear. Does that? I don't know. Does that make you feel any better about it, or do you feel the same? I rambled for a long time.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of context there from the book, obviously, as you yourself have acknowledged. But yeah, I guess it does, and it's a there are lines, and she starts talking to that other bloke and stuff, so it is in there, yeah, for sure. But it was, when watching it, was something that frustrated me.
I think they split it up. I think, the problem, because later on he says to her, "Oh, you're really interesting, and I'm just blank." But like in the book, he has that realization at the New Year's Eve party, sat across from her.
Right.
But it's an internal monologue, not said in dialogue. And I think maybe actually the problem is just that they don't tie the moments together as cleanly as they should have. I feel like if maybe his voiceover had said that there, then you'd have maybe felt better about him lying a second time.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, for sure. What are your... Well, actually, let's get... while we talked about it, let's get your... So what happens in the climax of the book then?
So the book goes in a very different direction than the film. Ultimately, the first two acts of both are very, very similar. I was actually shocked at how much the film and the book follow each other's plots. But the book goes in a different direction through Ellie and the timing, because obviously the book was written to be set in, I think, 1994, which is probably when it was released, actually. Let me see. About a Boy. When did the book come out? The book was probably like 98, 97, so it was only set a few years earlier at that point. Yeah. Okay, so the book comes out in 98, but it's set in... when did Kurt Cobain die? 94?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Let me check that. Yes, 94. So the book is set in 1994, very specifically. Ellie and Marcus actually bond over Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, because he doesn't know who Kurt Cobain is, Marcus, because he's so uncool. And he sees this blonde guy on her sweatshirt and is like, "Who's that?" And she's like, "Kurt Cobain." And he goes back to Will like, "Who's Kurt Cobain?" Like, he's like saying it wrong, and Will's like, "What is he? Is he a footballer or something?" Oh no, Ellie fucks with Marcus and tells him that it's a footballer and that he plays for United or something. And he goes back and tells Will this, and Will's like, "That's not correct." And he goes back to Ellie and he's like, "You lied to me. That's a singer from a band. I know about it now." So there's a whole. The reason it's called About a Boy is actually in reference to the Nirvana song About a Girl. That's where the title comes from. So the book has a huge amount of plots relating to Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. Nick Hornby, a massive music fan, as anyone who's read High Fidelity will know. And basically, towards the end of the book, Marcus discovers or realizes that actually a lot of his misplaced anger is actually at his father, not his mother. Because his father is the one who broke up the family.
Yeah.
And he decides, because his dad has an accident and decides he wants to see Marcus. And Marcus is like, "Oh, now you want to see me? You weren't here the last year when all this happened, and I've had to substitute you for fucking Will, who's useless. Like, where were you when Mum was sad?" And he doesn't even mean in a be there for her as a partner way. He just means, where were you when all this horrible stuff happened? So Ellie convinces Marcus that if he's really mad at his dad, he should go, like his dad wants him to. But instead of going to be supportive, to go to tell him off, tell him the truth. And they book a train trip, and Ellie and Marcus are going to go together. And the day that they're going on the train, Marcus sees the newspaper headlines that Kurt Cobain has died. And at first you think Ellie's okay with it. But eventually she gets really upset, and she marches off the train, like somewhere between London and where Marcus's dad lives. And they're walking down a random street in a random town. This like 12-year-old boy, and there's like, I think she's 14 or 15-year-old girl. And she sees a shop that has a Kurt Cobain standee and a whole spread about the album. So she's like, oh, they're trying to make money off his death. So she picks up like a bin and smashes the window, and they get arrested. And basically everyone goes to the police station. Will, Marcus's mum, Ellie's mum, which is very funny because it's the first time we're meeting Ellie's mum, Marcus's dad's new partner, and Will tells them all off, basically. Not Will, sorry. Marcus tells everyone off, basically. The climax of the book is very much they all get brought together because of this thing, which Marcus has nothing to do with, by the way. Ellie breaks the window. Ellie's the one in trouble. And there's a really funny thing. Marcus's mum is like begging the police to like... one second. Marcus's mum is begging the police to like not press charges, and Marcus keeps saying, "Mum, I'm not in trouble. I didn't do anything." She's like, "We'll turn in evidence against Ellie." It's very funny, but that's the moment they all come together, and I think even Rachel ends up there for some reason. I can't remember how or why. Maybe she's just with Will and she comes down. Either way, it leads to everyone sort of sorting out their emotional stuff. So it's a very small scale thing. It's literally in a room in a police station in like, I can't remember where, somewhere just outside of London. None of the stuff with the music happens at all. But I think what it's interesting is that it indicates something that I feel when I've read, and I've thought this for years. I feel like the film leans into being about a little more towards being Will's story, and I feel like the book leans a little more towards being Marcus's story. Marcus's voiceover fades away after the first act of the movie, and we don't really hear much from him until the end of the movie. In the book, I feel like we end up hearing a little more from Marcus than Will. The book is maybe slightly more balanced, but the whole climax centers around Marcus in the book, whereas the whole climax kind of centers around Will and his choices in the film. So yeah, I feel like there's a little. They both tackle it kind of differently. It's mad, isn't it? How different that is. It's nothing like.
Yeah, that's wild. And you could have. I mean, I feel maybe I'm wrong to say this, but the thing is, I think you could make that the climax of the movie. Like you could, the notion of, the bin smashing through the window, and then there's tension, and then suddenly they're all brought together. Like you could have made that work in this movie. This is the first time we're going to majorly talk about the man, because I feel like, as you were describing that, I'm like, wow, they really Richard Curtisified the ending, didn't they?
Yes.
Of what they did do in the film. Like, I'm like, oh, here's where you really can see. I don't know who wrote the script for the film, who wrote the adaptation, but it feels like the difference between the movie's ending and the book's ending is that in that gap between those two things is Richard Curtis. I
think you're exactly. I think you're right. I mean, the screenplay is technically by three people. It's Peter Hedges, Chris Weitz, and Paul Weitz, who are the two directors, Chris and Paul Weitz. But yeah, I mean, look, Richard Curtis had infected all of this kind of cinema, hadn't it? So like, even if Richard Curtis is like just a producer or not even at all involved in this movie, you could still, I think, quite confidently attribute that ending to Richard Curtis's influence, regardless of whether he directly worked on this movie or not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like it. And I think it's why a lot of people think it is a Richard Curtis movie, because things like the ending feel like a Richard Curtis movie.
I've just realised we haven't actually clarified for anyone who's listening to this brand new what the climax of the movie is. So the climax of the movie, very quickly, is Marcus realises that his mum loves it when he sings. She says it brings light to her heart. She's worried she's gonna commit suicide or try to again, as she's already done earlier in the movie, which I don't even think we've necessarily talked about in any depth yet. We'll come back to that, I guess. But like, he decides he's going to perform at the school, but one of the subplots of the movie is how much he's being bullied, and she's completely missing it. Like, she's just completely oblivious to his suffering at school. So he's going to sing it for the school. Will knows full well that's social suicide. So Will, who has kind of parted ways from Marcus at this point in the movie because of the sort of that low point at the end of the second act, start of the third, decides to do the right thing and spare Marcus by embarrassing himself, basically, instead. And very Richard Curtis. He does it in front of the woman he's just sort of broken up with, that he wants to get back, and she's all impressed and it's as Chris said, extremely Richard Curtis, and I think with very very within the. I will say it's within the spirit of the book. I would say it's still sort of dealing with all the themes from the book. It still brings everyone together. It still has it has everything I wanted out of it. We've sort of skipped the Marcus deciding that his dad is actually, or lack of his dad's presence is a big part of his issue, and instead just continue to deal with the plot that we've been sort of dealing with since the early part of the film, which is his fears about his mother's suicide and his not being quite over his mother's attempt at killing herself from earlier in the movie, which actually is probably more cohesive than the book, which feels confident enough and gets away with shuffling the story into a different direction towards the end, in a way that a film wouldn't have the time or the time basically to do convincingly. So I think it's probably quite smart as a change. Like, it works, I think, quite well. I don't really have any complaints about that ending. I think it's pretty good, to be honest.
No, I do. I don't. I think it works. I think they naturally rush. They give. Like you say, the film. It's funny actually because it does this counter your point. I agree on the surface that the film is more about Will than it is Marcus, but Marcus gets the scene where they walk out the gates and Marcus and his mum share that moment, and you sort of. I think it's really nicely written. This notion of, look, I'm not going to instantly be okay, but I'm going to be around. We can go to McDonald's. Like, do you know what I mean? She's not necessarily going to attempt on her life again. I think that scene's beautiful. And I know you hate Toni Collette, but I thought it was particularly impactful.
She's giving a very good performance with a very bad accent.
But Will's story, Will's just then, it's a year later and Will's with Rachel. Do you know what I mean? We get the emotional resolution to Marcus's story more than I think we get it to Will's. Which
I
is
disagree
sort of like,
a little bit, because don't you think?
Really?
Do you not think him getting up on stage and humiliating himself for Marcus after what we've learnt about him, without it having any gain for him at all, without him, he's already done the right thing and been honest, and that lost him the girl. So he's just doing it for Marcus.
First, you disrespect Toni Collette, and then you claim that winning the affection of Rachel Weisz is no gain.
He doesn't think he's going to gain Rachel Weisz. Hey, look, you're talking to teenage Dan, a very big Rachel Weisz fan. I will say that right now.
Well, now we know why Dad rewatched the movie so much.
She's not worth it. She's only in it like 20 minutes. I have no idea. My point is more, he's not doing that to win her back. That's not his. Not only is it not his goal, there is literally no guarantee of that. In fact, if anything, I mean, he sees her, and he's like, okay, cool, you're here, bye. It's like he doesn't even care that she's present. Like he's doing it for the right reasons, right? So I would say he gets the bigger moment. There are two little epilogue scenes, which is the one with Marcus and his mother, and then the one a year later at Christmas to show us that they're still together, which is good, and that Marcus is sort of like, we're showing that Marcus has grown up and changed a lot in a simple year, as a result of the events of this movie, which is good. And he seems to be friends with Ali now, which is nice. And there's a lot of stuff like that. But like the actual the climax, the peak before we do the sort of like wrap up scenes, it's focused on Will, I think, and I think that really does. I just think we're missing seeing them get back together. Mm-hmm. I think it's a bit like, because they're not still together. They get back together. Like we don't see the resolution. We don't see the apology of that particular plot. Do you think that would undercut it? We get a character ending for Will. What, the reveal in the future in the epilogue? No, I mean if we did a scene after the school where Rachel Weisz comes up to Will, she's like, we should talk, that was amazing, whatever. Does that not undercut that he did it for Marcus? If we're immediately like, and now you've done it, here is your reward.
Nah, I think if Marcus and his mum are walking away, and Will's just stood back outside the school, watching them and smiling, happy that they're sharing this moment, happy that he's helped make that happen, and then she comes out and she says, "That was really great. Like, that was nice of you," and she smiles at him and she walks off, and he watches her leave. I think that's fine, yeah. I suppose to be fair, there's not much between that and the shot of her looking at him on stage, clearly impressed and happy by him. So you could argue maybe that's doing the job of what I've just described.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Either way, I think it works incredibly well, considering it's the movie mostly succeeds on the stuff it's borrowing from the book, and when it chooses not to do that, that's a risky move, right? Because like the first two acts of the movie are really good, and they're very much based on the book. So such a big swing to change the ending, and to stick the landing on that, and to get that right, whether it still feels like a really satisfying conclusion to the movie we're watching, and in fact very cleverly omits the book's sort of third act shift to being about something a little bit different, in order to give the film a sort of its own thrust and consistency. So it's about this one thing. And, and the way they bring it back to, and it's the same in the book, it's about, for Marcus, it's about, in the book at the beginning, he thinks he needs someone else in his life. Because two in a group isn't enough, three should be enough. But the idea that by the end of the movie, he's got loads of people in his life. And it doesn't matter who those people are to you, whether they're your direct family or not. That revelation still works, whether it's he's deciding, I don't need my actual dad in my life. Look at all these people that are around me. That works here, regardless, because they made some really smart choices to condense it and not include that element.
So on that, who's the Amnesty International bloke, and why is it not the woman who at the beginning of the movie was telling Will to find a life there at Christmas with her family, witnessing Will now have a life?
Because he's setting up the Amnesty International guy with Marcus's mum.
Right. Okay. Fine. Cool. Got that. Lovely. Right. Okay. Makes sense.
That's like one of my favorite moments in the movie, because it's so subtly communicated. Because we have the scene that's a jokey scene of him being bad at Amnesty International, but then we also earlier in the movie have a scene or two where she's wearing an Amnesty International like hoodie or jumper or something. Toni Collette's character, Marcus's mum. So at the ending of the movie, when he's like, "Oh, Will just called me out of the blue," and she looks around at Will like, "Ah, you bastard," and Will's like smug about it,
right?
Because he knows.
I didn't pick up on that. Because admittedly, I was also distracted by. I thought it could be a nice full circle thing if we had that woman and her family also there. And I was distracted by like, why is Ellie here? like without her own family? They're friends, cool, but maybe it's like not Christmas Day, but that felt like that's a good point. I mean, because in the book that would make more sense, because Ellie's mum gets folded into this group through the way they're all brought together because of the police station thing. So in the book that makes a lot of sense. From what you've described, Ellie and Will hang out more in the book than they do here.
Ellie and Marcus. Yeah. It's a huge Ellie thing. Marcus, I mean, it's a massive plot. Their relationship is fascinating in the book. It's one of the most interesting things about it, because they're so different. But she finds him funny because she finds the things that other kids find repellent about Marcus endearing and funny and weird. And she kind of likes that he says bizarre shit. It's kind of like she's amused by him rather than repulsed by him, and that's how their relationship sort of forms. And it's very sweet. It's really well written. I mean, I massively recommend both the film and the book to anyone who's interested. The book's great. The one scene from the book that I do wish was in the film, and it would be hard to do the tonal balance thing that I've complimented the movie for if you do this scene, so I fully accept that they probably made the right choice. But as a person who recently read the book, I yearned for... There's a sequence in the film when Marcus is worried because his mother has started crying again. And he's worried she's going back down the route she was going. So they're like... He wants to have a nice night with her. So they get food, they get like good food, and they like rent a film. And they rent Groundhog Day. nice Bill Murray comedy, right? So they're watching the movie and they're both laughing and loving the movie. It's, Groundhog Day. Perfect movie. We talked about it. We've covered it on this very podcast. And we get to the sequence where Bill Murray's character, frustrated with his situation, being stuck in a time loop, repeatedly tries to commit suicide. Over and over and over again. And Marcus's mother is laughing and enjoying the movie, and Marcus is feeling sick to his stomach. And he ends up turning it off and making some bad excuse about how he should do his homework, or like something else comes on the TV. He's like, oh, I wanted to watch this. And it's like tennis or something. And she's like, well, you didn't. So what's going on? And she had never even considered that subject matter would be upsetting for Marcus, which is where we realize that she doesn't even understand how much damage she has done to Marcus with her choices. And I'm not going to sit here and say a person with depression that tries to commit suicide is like a selfish person or anything like that. She obviously is dealing with a mental illness. But it's the moment that character realizes the damage she's done. And it's a really powerful scene in the book, and I found it very affecting. And I did slightly wish it was here, even though,
Yeah, but I think they've made a conscious choice. And look, hell, it could have been budgetary. They've made a conscious choice to the soundtrack is like Nirvana is gone, Groundhog Day is gone, and the soundtrack even for a book that is clearly rooted in real music. The soundtrack is real music in the sense of released, not for the movie music. Whereas what they did with this is they went to badly drawn boy and he created a soundtrack for this movie. So as far as I can tell,
yeah, that's my understanding. That's my understanding of it as well.
So they've removed the pop culture side of it from it, and I get that, rights, all the rest of it, and probably expensive to do that. Fair enough. Like I think doesn't Richard Curtis has a famous bit where he says the most expensive thing in any of his movies is the Beatles music in Yesterday. Now, obviously, that's the Beatles, but still, it wouldn't have been easy to watch Groundhog Day in a movie, and also I think that becomes. Weirdly, in a book where it's from the perspective of the characters, you can understand that point a bit more. I think if that features in the film, it just looks like it's an essay on Groundhog Day, which it isn't and shouldn't be. That does link us, though. What did you think? How did you feel about that side of it? Because, like I said, in terms of how they handle Marcus's mother, beautifully played by Toni Collette. I know. Honestly, like, can we? I was expecting you to obviously do your. She's a wonderful performance with a bad accent. And I was going to say, can we add an add-on to this podcast, which is like, if you want to play a fun drinking game, line yourself up some shots and take one every time Dan says it's a wonderful performance with a bad accent or in the book. And then you'll be and get yourself nice and hammered.
You'd be dead. I don't.
So I found that really interesting. Yeah. Because I almost sort of. You can hear me when we talked about this earlier, almost change my perspective on it as I'm talking, because I watched this last night and my feeling was I thought it was a fascinating juxtaposition between a really modern, natural human take on this, the scenes of her just sort of seemingly better, but then sort of sitting and crying and seemingly better is a really poor turn of phrase for this topic. I apologize for that, but like,
no, I know. I think you're safe on that one, because that's right. Some people who are still dealing with this are masking, right? They seem better to a person who's observing them socially or passively. That's why you get so many of these incidents where people die, and people say I just don't believe that it was suicide. They seemed so happy, Seemingly is the perfect word, I think. Genuinely, and it's also, actually, I should clarify, one of the reasons that Kurt Cobain ties so heavily into this, by the way, as well, is that it's a suicide. That is a big part of the book, because one of the things, one of the things Ellie says to Marcus is, if someone really, but this is before Kurt Cobain, it's one of those those moments where Marcus hears something really real from someone, and all the people he gravitates to are the people who are not bullshitting to him. And Ellie says, "Look, if someone really wants to do it, there's nothing you can do. You're not going to be able to stop them." She doesn't know at that point that his mother tried to. So she says that to him, and it really that sits with him for a while as well. And then when Kurt Cobain happens, like, it brings that topic back up. So, like, yeah, no, I think I think that's exactly the right phrasing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think you nailed it.
No, you're fine.
You were sort of like defending yourself and maybe misphrasing something, and I think actually that was probably quite accurate.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's fair. And so yeah, all this stuff is sort of handled so beautifully. And then there's, Will calls her mad throughout the movie, and that sat a little uncomfortably with me. But then when when it came up earlier, you can hear me kind of go, well, actually, that's a prejudice, and that's a, sorry, I didn't say that word right, but that's a conception, that's an issue that is, especially the older generation, stereotypically, I would say, like, I don't feel like our parents' generation look at mental health, for example, the way that our generation do, or indeed the way that the 12-year-olds now, their generation will do, or do, maybe even. So I think actually, whereas I maybe sat on, some of it's aged badly, I don't think it has, because I think those things still exist. I think those terms, those misjudgments, I think they still exist, and maybe the film could have got into them even further, maybe, or highlighted that that's wrong. I don't know, but maybe it does that by the strong relationship, or the fact that he says you're just a bit mad and she laughs. That's two people that don't know how to communicate about this topic communicating about it. Yeah, what's your view on that?
Similar, I think. I think you're right. I think that the movie kind of it's a movie based on. So the book's written in 97, and the movie comes out in 2002. So like we are firmly talking 25 years ago at best that this is being written, the film version. So that's part of it for sure. But also, I do think there's an element of England specifically has the notion of the eccentric, right? A person that's mad, balmy, weird, in a sort of charming way. We have this notion of, they're mad, barking, but in a sort of like delightful, fun, they do unexpected things way. You know what I mean? Someone I'm working with here in Korea, I have described as mad, not in a mental health way, but in a they do strange things sometimes sort of way. And this is a conversation I have at my work with other colleagues who also have the same experiences with this person. And I mean it in the most possibly affectionate way I could. Like, they're balmy, and it makes every interaction with that person entertaining, right? And I think Will does, regardless of the mental health issues, Will thinks she's mad. She wears weird clothes. She doesn't like know anything about modern music. She's so detached from so many elements of society that will make sense to Will. She does seem mad to him, and I know that when he does call her mad, sort of jokingly, it is in reference to the fact that she's not well and has poor mental health. But I do think we have a culture in the UK of that term being more of a term of endearment. I feel like if this was in an American movie, I might have struggled more with that. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm sort of like explaining it, but I think it's an English cultural thing. I think we use that term because we have that old notion of the eccentric. Someone who's a bit mad but very entertaining to be around. You want to invite them to a dinner party because they're going to say and do weird shit. That's fun. That's a real thing, and I think we don't. I don't think we have that. That word doesn't have the same impact in England as it does in America. I think. Yeah, because I think it is more of a term of endearment for us. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, though. I think you're definitely right to be sensitive to that. And I think the movie definitely walks a really fine line. And anybody who told me they found it too much and not sensitive enough, I would not disagree with them, because you're correct to have pointed it out. But for me, they were just on the right side of it for the reasons I mentioned. Both the time it was written, the fact that the movie is otherwise very sensitive to her situation. The movie doesn't pretend there's a magic cure for what's wrong with her. In fact, the movie very deliberately points out that's no such thing. It's actually, in terms of its actual messaging, it's very, very sensitive to mental health issues, and probably educated a lot of people to some of these things and how they can't just be fixed overnight, and that there isn't just a medicine you can take that's going to fix something like this. So yeah, I think the good outweighs the bad for me on that one. But I totally get it. I think your empathy. Not your empathy. Empathy is the wrong word. Your EQ was very high on that, for you to have identified that, because I think a lot of people watch the movie and not even stop at that sentence. But I think you were wise to sort of for your ears to prick up a little bit in that moment, because it is very close to the line for sure.
Yeah, but like you, I do absolutely settle on. I think the movie handles the topic brilliantly. And it's so like that opening, the Day of the Duck scene when he walks into the room, and the way they recreate that shot later when she sat there crying, it's so powerful. And like I really like the way as well there's little subtle touches, and I don't know if these things were a bigger thing in the book or indeed if they've been added for the film, but Marcus seeing his mum across the lake. And then later on, Will seeing his dad in the supermarket, and the notion of these two think the same and sort of visualize things the same and have a lot in common. I thought that was a really nice, quick representation of that to get that across to the audience.
Yeah, I don't remember if he physically sees her in the book or if he just thinks of her, but he definitely sort of on what he refers to as the Dead Duck Day, and it is referred to as that throughout the entire book. He does definitely. It's like he sort of has a sense of something's wrong, which he then reanalyzes later. I think this happens in the movie too, where he's like, he's not... now it's so ingrained in his brain, it feels like he knew all along he was walking into a horror show. But the reality is he probably just opened the door like normal and walked in. He couldn't have possibly known what led behind that door for him. And the movie definitely gives it the right impact and space to be a thing that is of impact and of importance to Marcus. I think they do a really good job with that, in fact. So yeah, I'm super pleased with how they handled it, to be honest with you, because I was a little worried because I read the book last month or so and I hadn't rewatched the film, and I knew that the suicide scene is in the film, but I was like, but it's like a Richard Curtis-y style, like sort of British comedy with a sort of romantic vibe, because they do the whole Rachel Weisz thing, and like I think the focus is going to be on that, and I feel like they're going to rush past that suicide stuff and not really hit it as hard as they probably should. I think, considering what the tone of the movie is otherwise, I'm actually really impressed with the bravery they showed on handling that topic and that subject matter with seriousness. Like, the scene in which they find her is treated with the correct tone, in my opinion. They don't make a joke for like a couple more minutes before they do it. They hold off. And I think that's yeah. And then there's little moments as well where like when she says to Marcus, like, we have to look after each other now, and it's like, Jesus Christ, woman, that's so much pressure to put on this child. You're telling him he's responsible for your mental health. That's so fucked. And admittedly, the movie never actually calls her out for saying that. But like anyone watching the movie with any sort of like, with the eyes open on that sort of looking for that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just really messed up, that relationship. And they don't hold, my point is they don't hold back on that stuff, which I thought maybe they would.
And just to be clear, because I don't want it to sound, we're using Richard Curtis to describe a style. We're not necessarily using, whilst there's some of his movies I don't like, we're not necessarily using Richard Curtis as a slang for anything negative. I think, he wrote arguably one of the best episodes of modern Doctor Who. I think About Time is brilliant as a film. Yeah. He's done some great stuff. Sorry, say that again.
Four Weddings, classic. you know.
Yeah, I'm not as huge on. I think I've just. I don't think I concentrated when I watched Four Weddings. I must admit. But yeah, so we're not using that as a negative. It's not a byword for a negative thing.
No. It's a certain style of movie that he had such success with that it became ubiquitous in the UK for several years. These movies, usually with white posters. For some reason, with like very handsome, charming people, handsome and or you know, attractive, pretty people on the front, getting into various sorts of love-related shenanigans, and it just became it became a very big thing. Four Weddings is sort of where it starts, and it sort of culminates and maybe collapses with Love Actually in 2003. Less said about Love Actually, the better. Little thing about me.
Yeah, Love Actually
about me. That movie sucks. I hate it.
It's certainly polarizing, isn't it? There's Love Actually really is Marmite. Like either people love it or they hate it. Although I suppose I'm a bit indifferent on Love Actually. Like I'll watch it if it's on.
Wait till it comes up on this podcast, mate. Wait till it comes up on this fucking. podcast.
I slightly dread it coming up on this podcast.
It's gonna be a fucking bloodbath. I cannot wait to tear that movie to pieces.
It's one of those scenarios where I'd have to rewatch it to firmly make up my mind on it. My fear for a Love Actually episode of this podcast is it's one of those examples where I won't disagree with the points you're making, but I just won't be as bothered by them.
Right.
So it'll just be you saying stuff and me going, yeah, you're right. I got no defense to that. Just didn't bother me, and I don't know how entertaining that is.
No. Yeah. Well, look, I'm gonna lay it out now. We're not covering it this year, guys. I know Christmas is coming up, but we're not tackling Love Actually. We've already sort of decided what our movies are going to be, and we're not doing Love Actually. Maybe next year. Maybe we'll come back to Love Actually next year. A bit of a distance from this.
Am I right in saying you've got a fondness for The Boat That Rocked as well, or am I making that up?
I like The Boat That Rocked. Fondness would be a strong word, but I've seen The Boat That Rocked. I liked it. I would say that is a good film.
I feel like I say that because I feel like I watched it in the context of you being like, let's watch The Boat That Rocked. It's all right. And I think maybe even we watched it together. If I might be wrong.
I think I'd already seen it with Nadia, but then we watched it together. I think that's right. I think that's correct. And a British comedy with like a lot of actors you're fond of. It makes a lot of sense that I would have said to you, you should probably see that one.
Yeah, and it came out in 2009, so we literally would have been living together. So,
yeah, and like, Nick Frost, Kenneth Branagh, Reese Ifans, like Bill Nighy, like come on, that's a
Bill Nighy.
Oh god, Philip Seymour Hoffman's in that movie. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, great movie. Chris O'Dowd, Rhys Darby, Emma Thompson's in that movie. I fucking love Emma Thompson. So yeah, all-star cast. Not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of fun.
From to take us back to About Boy, from what you've described, take a shot. I think it's a shame that so much of the Marcus and Ellie stuff has been taken out.
Yes,
I understand why, but I think that's a shame given what you've described from the book.
Yeah, I think both relationships are sort of a little shortchanged, but I think the one that I ache because we still get, Rachel as a character still turns up. He still has feelings for her. She still gets wound up in the plot. We still do the stuff with Ali. So Rachel, while underserved compared to the book, is still present, just reduced. Whereas Ellie, it feels like God, she turns up 3 times in this movie? It's like total. And it's... And her relationship with Marcus is really, really interesting. Like, again, that exploration of her realness being something of note to Marcus, because so many people just aren't being honest with him in his life. Like, Ellie is sort of refreshing, and his affection for her sort of comes from this place of, well, she's one of the few people that tells me it like it is. You know what I mean? And the way that they characterize her, it's brilliant. It's really well done. It is a shame. Stuff had to get cut, though. I mean, I don't know if do you think this movie could have gotten away with being any longer? It's like an hour and 40, I think, but
No.
5-10 minutes of that is credits. It's a really tight hour and a half. I feel like if you give this even 5-10 minutes more, just add some scenes more with Ellie, that might have been too much, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I do think. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's a really good watch at the length it is. And that's not just because I think we've talked about this. That's not just a craving for more movies to be
Yeah, an hour
to
and a
be
half.
shorter
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah, I just feel like it is missing, and it is a shame, and I think it is noteworthy that my feeling, without critically analysing this, my feeling, if you'd have asked me prior to re-experiencing the book or the film, was that the book leans more towards being Marcus's story and the film leans a bit more to being Will's story. I've always felt that way about it, and now I'm analysing it. I'm like, yeah, that's really true, because what are the two biggest things cut from the movie? Marcus's dad, Marcus's relationship with Ellie. Both of the biggest things that are removed from the film are Marcus heavy, and therefore, of course, that swings the pendulum towards it being Will's story. So yeah, I don't know. I look, I'm not complaining, because I think they balanced it so that the film feels like a complete film, and I feel like it's like they were packing the bag, and it was perfectly packed, and there was more stuff they would have liked to have brought in the suitcase in the bag. But doing that would have made it be overstuffed. And maybe some things would have got crushed. So they just left the bag as it was and left some things outside of it and didn't bring them with them on the trip. This metaphorical trip I've invented that is this movie. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they had to leave some stuff out, or it would have felt overstuffed, or it would have needed to be longer. And I don't think either of those are a good answer. So I even though I'm sad those things are missing, I think they chose. It's exactly what we talked about. Oh, take a shot. Bring it back to the boy that we don't talk about anymore. One of our big complaints about those adaptations was the insistence on including everything, and then the movie's feeling too stuffed.
I think you need to give more of a hint there. The magic boy that we don't talk about anymore.
I don't think we do. I don't think we do. The boy who must not be named, the films that must not be named, the books that must not be named, because their creator is a fucking monster. I saw a really funny TikTok last night about somebody that's like accidentally created a forbidden section on their bookshelf in their house, because what they've had every now and then they have to just go to their bookshelf and be like, Orson Scott Card, okay, you're gone. J.K. Rowling, you're gone. Neil Gaiman, you're gone. And they've like been gathering all these books, and what do I do? I can't donate them to charity, and then like someone else is going to find these things. I can't, like, what am I going to do? Burn them in my backyard? So I've just been collecting them in my closet, like at the bottom of my closet, storing them sort of like with no care. He's like, but it's like at some point my child is going to discover the forbidden section of my library, which is all the books at the bottom of my closet.
What did you do with yours? Because presumably it's a bit different for you, because you had a moment of actively having to decide what to do with them, in the sense of storage, take them. Well, I assume you didn't take them with you. That would be insane, given that you won't name the franchise if you took the books with you to South Korea. But yeah, what did you do with yours?
No, they're just in storage. It felt from a recycling perspective, like chucking away is like a tricky, like, how do you manage that? But like, so they're just in storage. But they're
fair enough.
My whole like book and DVD and film collection are all just sort of together in just boxes. Very not carelessly sounds strong, but like, yeah, everything just went into boxes. I think a lot of people are having that situation now, where they're looking at their bookshelf, seeing them there, and wondering what to do. That's a dilemma for a lot of people. But my point is,
there's different levels that
go on, sir.
Yeah, go on. Oh, there's different. It makes me laugh. I can't wait for the show to come out, because there's different levels. And I'll be honest, I know where I want to fall on this. I know where I want to fall. I can't sit here and say with 100% certainty I'm not going to be in the second category here. But I think there are people that getting rid of their books, moving them to a shelf, aren't naming them on a podcast, are categorically not going to watch the TV show. I think there are people that are not talking about them, not promoting them, disagree with them, disagree with her, but will probably secretly watch the TV show and just not talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I think there are people that don't really give a shit, or not that don't give a shit, that don't feel strongly enough to not watch it and will watch it, talk about it, still playing the game, whatever. And there are people that maybe just aren't aware of it, like Tom Felton.
If the show turns out to be some sort of masterpiece and everyone's going on about it, there's even with my situation of being very done with that franchise, like there's even the it seems small and remote right now, but I don't think I could possibly tell you with any sort of certainty that I'm not gonna watch the first episode of that show out of curiosity. That's, that franchise was a big part of my life for a very long time, and it's shaking that fully is going to be. But I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to be completely upfront, if that happens, we won't be covering it on the podcast, and I will be pirating it. I won't be buying a subscription. I will not be watching it officially. I will not be putting a penny in the hands of anyone responsible for that franchise for the rest of my life, and I mean that. So yeah. Anyway, to just round out my point. Sorry, I should say, just because the thing we complained about with the films from that franchise was they kept trying to do everything, and it was almost a weird slavish desire to cover all of the stuff in the book that fucked them over. Because then the films were overstuffed, nothing could be explored properly. We rushed through everything, then nothing felt explored, and then we just had these absolute messes of films. Rushing through tons of plot, skipping over tons of character stuff, ending up feeling like they didn't make sense. Stuff got left out here, and yeah, I'm sad about it. Marcus and Ellie is a real casualty of this. Marcus and his dad is a big casualty of this, in my opinion. But what we got was a very clean, clear, concise movie that told a very particular story and told it well because they were willing to make cuts and knew what to cut and made the right choices, I think.
Yeah, as someone that hasn't read the book, I don't think you notice. I think you notice Will and Ellie more than you notice Marcus and his dad, because Marcus and his dad is turned into a gag, is turned into a joke at the Christmas scene.
Yes, which, by the way, that is exactly from the book. I will say.
Right.
that is where we first meet his dad, and he has brought his new partner and her mum, and it is as funny in the book as it is in the film.
Yeah, the style of humor in this is very good. It's very deadpan.
We should talk about that. There are some really good jokes. It's very funny when they're talking about the carolers, and he says really casually, she says, "What? The carolers supposed to pay you money every time they sing the song?" He goes, "Well, they're supposed to, but you just can't catch the buggers."
Yeah. Well, that leads me to, I think there are two big topics that we've not touched upon. Yep. Well, I don't know how big a topic it is for most people, but there's one big topic we've not talked about, and there's a big topic for you we've not talked about, and that is the performances of Nicholas Hoult and Hugh Grant, and then also the music. So to start with the one I can add more to, because I feel like the music is more of you praising it, which you kind of have done, but to be fair, but Nicholas Hoult, I think, is phenomenal because it doesn't feel like a child acting. It feels like because his performance is so good, it feels like they've just plucked a real child off the street and filmed them. It's so naturalistic. It's so real. It's so earnest. It's so the opposite of what child acting often is in these films. I think there's some child acting in the franchise we've referenced 5 minutes ago, which feels like children acting. Well, this doesn't feel like that.
I just want to quickly say, if you've seen this film recently about a boy, there's an example of what we're talking about. There's a scene when he's at school and he goes to the other two kids who are the closest thing he has to friends, and they don't want to hang out with him anymore because they're getting flack from the bullies. They're catching strays because the bullies are coming after Marcus. And I mean this with all the love and respect in the world. Those two kids are not good in this film. Those two kids are exactly what we're referring to when we talk about child actors. They're stilted, they're weird, they're clearly just saying the lines. You can basically see them looking off camera to check that the director's nodding. Yeah, you said it right, good work. You know what I mean? They're not in the scene. And it's fine because they're children, and of course children shouldn't be expected to have a skill at the level an adult does. It's not bad that they're not good. It's impressive that Nicholas Hoult is. Does that make sense?
It's phenomenal. And I think he has such good chemistry, and it's such a good on-screen partnership with Hugh Grant, partly because I think they're doing something similar, which I don't think Hugh Grant, but even now, Hugh Grant gets a lot of credit now for his more dramatic performances. I don't think Hugh Grant is particularly underrated. I think he got a lot of praise for Foster Florence Jenkins.
That was amazing. He was great in that movie. Yes,
he got a lot of praise. Yes, and he thank you. And he got a lot of praise, quite rightly, for A Very English Scandal, which was phenomenal. And obviously, there are also mainstream hits like Paddington, that have given him sort of a newfound appreciation. I think he's still fairly underappreciated for his work that he does in these sort of rom-com movies, because I think probably has a reputation of like not being expressive, and I think it's almost the opposite. I think his work, where you can tell what the character is thinking and how the character is feeling, with not much movement or not much size to the performance. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, Hugh Grant is not going, oh gosh, and like he's not being over the top with it, as you often get in a lot of these rom-coms. I think it's why Matthew McConaughey was so good in rom-coms as well. Like, I'd probably need to rewatch a Matthew McConaughey rom-com to say that with confidence, but that's my instinct anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think Nicholas Hoult is doing a similar thing. I think they work so well because both of the performances are actually quite subtle and feel very real and feel very natural. You know, Hugh Grant, the reaction when I think that moment, whilst it misses take a shot what's in the book about when Will says "fucking hell" to the revelation that of what Marcus's mum has done. I think you still get that in the film because Hugh Grant's performance of that line and delivery of it is so real and earnest. Yeah. So both are just brilliant, which is nothing new to say. And I think also, if Nicholas Hoult gave a worse performance, Jess would have realised it was Nicholas Hoult. But like that is a real testament to how much it feels like they're just filming a real kid. The fact that she didn't go, is that the guy from the X-Men movies, you know, or whatever? Like, yeah.
Is that the kid from Skins?
Especially Skins.
Yeah.
Because obviously, age-wise, it's such a close performance. Yeah. What do you think about the performances of those two in particular?
Yeah, I'll keep it short because I think you covered most of it. I think they're both amazing, and I think they do a lot to fill in the gaps where the book gets that wonderful thing a book has the ability to do, which is tell you what the character is thinking, and the movie has a little bit of that. In the narration, but doesn't rely on that.
The monologues,
the sort of internal monologue. But you know, that's it's pretty thin. They don't do it a huge amount. I think, which is correct, by the way. If the movie did a lot of that, I think it would just feel too much like I'm watching a book rather than a movie that's adapting a book. I don't mind that there's narration. I think they got a good balance of it. So yeah, the acting is so damn good because it is communicating a lot of the missing things. You know, I feel like both actors probably did read the book and therefore understood in each scene the inner thoughts of the characters in question. And because so many of the scenes are 1-to-1 with the book, especially in the first two acts. You know, let's say you're Hugh Grant and you're about to film the scene where he meets Rachel at the New Year's Eve party. You pull out that chapter in the book and you've got a blueprint for how the character is feeling because it explains it very thoroughly. You know what I mean? So like, and quite rightly, they found ways to communicate it without saying it. And that's amazing. So yeah, and the chemistry between them can't be undersold either. Those two, when they're acting opposite each other, it's one thing for a kid to be good as a kid actor. It's another thing for him to be able to have chemistry with an adult actor. That's quite rare, I would say. So yeah, very impressed with both. We should briefly touch on the music then, just to clarify. Look, it's some of the best music in a film. Full stop, I think. In terms of music, obviously not score. There's plenty of score here too, also from that album. But the songs are just so good at capturing the feeling of the film, I think, the tone of the film. And they go with it so well. And I think, it's just a very impressive thing to be both the appropriate music for a movie and help the movie tell its story and create its atmosphere, but also just be really good songs within themselves that I would listen to. Like, I would quite happily sit here and listen to like a Peak You Reach or Above You Below Me, Silent Sigh, or of course the big hit from the film, the one that actually did like, the charts, which is something to talk about. All incredible songs just to listen to. And if you've never heard this soundtrack, I really do recommend it. I mean, there's some like musical interludes that are just the score of the movie, Like, it opens with Exit Stage Right, which is just like a 20-second like little jingle that's used in the movie. There's a few of those. Wet Wet Wet's like 40 seconds long or something like that as well. So there's a few of those in the album, but it's mostly like full songs with lyrics that are really good. Above You Below Me is a masterpiece. It genuinely is. River Sea Ocean's amazing too. So it's so impressive that the movie's music works. It dual works. Like, there's so few movies that have a soundtrack I would listen to outside of watching the movie. So few. So few. I'm like, one hand I could name them on. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's it should not be. It should not be forgotten about when people talk about this movie, and I doubt it will be, because, like I said, especially in the UK, something to talk about. And I think Silent Sigh both charted, so I know that it's like a big deal. Like, I know that the song was a successful song, of its own, in its own right at the time. So I know that at the time it was properly appreciated. I think it was like 5 or 6 in the album chart, but I think I wonder how. I would love to know where Something to Talk About charted. Let me see. Can I pull that up? Let's see. Oh, peaked at 28, to be fair, which isn't great. Okay. Well, okay. So Silent Sigh was better, 16.
Yeah, but I'd imagine I'll look this up while you. Well, I agree with you. I think the music's brilliant, by the way. But I'd imagine that's still quite a high peak for Badly Drawn Boy. In terms of commercially, That's not saying anything about him as an artist.
Yeah.
But in terms of like a comparison, I would expect you'd find that was quite high.
Yeah, for sure. He's really good. I mean, I must admit, that was like his second album that he'd ever produced. Like, his first album was only 2-3 years earlier, and like that, and I'm sure he's still doing music. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he has an album.
So
like in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, exactly. So Silent Sigh, 2020. Silent Sigh is his second highest charting song ever. Only You Were Right charted above it, and then Something to Talk About is right up there as well.
Yeah.
Not so much, actually. He had other songs go a bit higher, but anyway.
Yeah, like, I mean, look, he's I'm sure he's continued to release albums, and I'm sure it's all really good. It's just, like I said, I only really know him through this, but like, yeah, good stuff. Really, really pleased with. Let me quickly. I've not really looked at my notes too much, but I'm willing to bet that the notes cover things we've already talked about. Oh yeah, Hugh Grant, perfect for the role. Music is good. Toni Collette's great in the movie, and that's there. I wrote a note really early on. I love that he gets the question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire wrong, but then confidently turns off the TV so he never finds out that he's an idiot. He's like protecting himself from being proven wrong immediately. I did write down Marcus saying, I think I killed a duck, and then him seeing the bread and being like, bloody hell, Marcus, that would have killed me.
Yeah. I thought that was good, and the way he protects him from the policeman, I was like, no, yes. it was just there.
Yeah, he was trying to see. He was just trying to sink the body because it was upsetting the other children. Yeah, absolutely. I will say they soften Will's character a lot in the movie versus the book. I think in the book he lies a lot more, and he digs his heels in the early parts a lot more. He like stacks the lies on top of lies, whereas in the film, I feel like he's caught out pretty quickly, and then he's like, yeah, I gave up with this whole pretending to have a child thing. It seemed like a lot of work for not much gain. Like, it's in the book, he's a lot less likable, I think, because in the book he does it for a lot longer and he doubles down a lot worse, I think, in the early parts. I did say, I've written a note here about, I forgot about this. Yeah, Marcus finding the suicide note. I'm amazed they kept that part in. That's a big moment in the book, but like, I really expected that to be cut out of the film, to be honest with you. I didn't anticipate that being in it. So I was pleased about that.
Yeah, I thought that was. I thought that was very powerful, very, very well acted. That scene.
Yeah, and again, proof that they chose the right tone to adapt this film into. I will say as well, the scene when Marcus's mum confronts Will about how much time Fiona. That's her name. Sorry, Fiona. When Fiona confronts Will about because she's just discovered he's been spending all this time with Marcus in the restaurant, and she's yelling at him, and like she's accusing him of maybe I think the word he uses is interfering with her child, and it's like it's such a British comedy of the moment, like a sort of, as we talked about, like that Richard Curtis-esque comedy. It so fits that style of comedy, that moment, and it is almost, I think, no, maybe not verbatim, but it is very close to the scene that happens in the book. Very close. And I thought that was really funny that it translated so well to this exact kind of movie. It was like it was written for it. It really was. In fact, many times the dialogue in the movie is just from the book. That happened more than... Yeah, but it happened a lot. Happened a huge amount that I noticed lines just directly from the book being just ported over to the film. And they were very careful about when they did it. But...
I think, it's there for the picking, as long as Nick Hornby gets credit, which he gets credited, which he was, then,
Yeah, and I said this to Nadia, like, why wouldn't you? The book's really well written. Why wouldn't you use... Someone's written good dialogue already that covers these scenes, why wouldn't you borrow some of those lines? There's lots of really funny jokes. The book's really funny. The book's really, really funny. So, let's see. Anything else? Oh, there's a small subplot that's gone, which only appears in one moment. So in the book, Marcus doesn't understand jokes when he first meets Will. He's a bit like Drax from the early Guardians movies, where he just like doesn't understand it when someone's being sarcastic at all. And then as the book goes on, he starts to say things like, "Oh, that's one of them jokes that you're trying to make again, isn't it? That's sarcasm, isn't it?" Like he starts clocking it, and then towards the end of the book, to sort of show his growth, he's making those kinds of jokes. And the bit that survives and made it into the film is the gift for Will at Christmas. And Will says, "Is this supposed to be a joke, Marcus?" And Marcus is like, "Yes, it is." So that's the only bit of it that survived. But that's fine.
Yeah, I liked that scene. I like that scene a lot. I think the Christmas scene is really is full of examples of that British humour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and that makes sense if it's directly taken from the book.
Yeah, it's great. My final note, Chris, and then I'll ask you if you've got any final thoughts. But like my final note, and this is proper nitpick corner, because we are talking about, and I mean this, less than 5 seconds of the movie. So, are we happy to go to nitpick corner?
Yeah, I got my boots on. I'm ready.
Okay. Dear editor of this movie, what the fuck were you thinking with that freeze frame at the end of the movie? It was cheesy in the 2000s. It was cheesy in the 90s. We moved well away from freeze framing on someone laughing as a society. What the fuck are you doing that for in 2002? Fucking embarrassing. What the hell were you thinking? Doesn't impact the rest of the movie, because the rest of the movie's still great, but that was fucking terrible. Like, angered me so much. Why make that choice? Did no one put their hand up and go, "Do we definitely want to end on somebody laughing on a freeze frame? Is that not a bit done? Was that not done 20 years ago?"
Pans round. Richard Curtis is there with a notepad. Yes, you do.
Fuck me.
I don't know if any of his movies do that. I
have no idea. But like, it was in this movie, and it fucking drove me insane. It was awful. I cringed. I like shuddered when it happened. I could not believe my eyes. I genuinely couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was so bad. So yeah, whoever was responsible for that choice, go fuck yourself.
There we go. Boom.
Have you got any final thoughts?
Now that we've... No. I couldn't remember if we do final thoughts after the triv. But no, I thought it was. I think we've naturally covered it all. Mm-hmm. It was. It's really strong. It's a really good watch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. People should definitely watch it if you've never seen it, or read the book, one or the other. In fact, just any of Nick Hornby's books, like with the exception of maybe Slam, I don't think, and maybe Fever Pitch, but there pretty much isn't a bad book you can pick of Hornby's, so I do recommend.
I read Slam as a kid and didn't mind it. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's about the teenage pregnancy, isn't it? It's teenage pregnancy and skateboarding, if memory serves.
Yeah, I mean, when did that one come out? 2007. I consider that kind of a later. That's a later one. Yeah.
I suspect the problem is you knew more about the skateboarding scene than I did. And maybe there are inconsistencies.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but I think it just mostly I just didn't find it particularly funny or interesting. I don't know, it didn't have the depth of his other books, and I felt like it felt like a deliberate attempt to aim a book at a younger audience, and I kind of was I felt insulted by it rather than spoken to by it, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't feel like this book's written for me. I felt like, all right, Grandpa, he's doing the "How do you do, fellow kids" meme. That's that book for me. So it's not about the authenticity to the skateboard scene, and more his attempt to sort of speak to the youth. That was maybe misguided. But, it is what it is. I mean, it's not as bad as, from what Nadia told me of the newest Jacqueline Wilson book, when she went back to one of her old things. And she talked about somebody, she's so out of touch in it. Somebody orders a Deliveroo by calling Deliveroo.
That's very funny.
We phoned up and ordered a Deliveroo. It's like, oh, you were so close, Jacqueline Wilson. I mean, it's not her fault. She's got to be in her 80s now, but maybe don't write the book.
That isn't her fault. I'm sorry. That's the editor's fault. There's an editor there that's missed that. I'm sorry. Like, all books get read by an editor. That's madness.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Anyway,
that is literally the editor's job. To pick up that shit and remove it.
That's a really good point. Anyway, my point is, I don't care for slam, but otherwise, pick up a Nick Hornby book. They're great. He's very good. How to Be Good is a personal favourite of mine. It's a great book. Very weird, but a good book.
Nice.
Very quickly, Chris. Before we get into Triv, just want to ask you a question. Do you remember the About a Boy TV series?
No.
Do you remember that we watched and reviewed it on Nothing But Static?
No.
So episode 42, How I Met Your Finale. We talked about the How I Met Your Mother finale, and we talked about some new sitcoms. One was called Friends with Better Lives, which I hated, About a Boy, which I enjoyed, and the other one was Silicon Valley. And it had Minnie Driver as the lead.
I was going to say, but in my head, I was picturing Minnie Driver, but then I was like, no, I must be thinking of that sitcom she did where her son was disabled. I just assumed I was thinking of that. But Minnie Driver, Minnie Driver, when you said it, Minnie Driver is the face that popped into my head.
Yeah. Anyway, just wanted to bring that up because I just thought it was funny that we've sort of reviewed an About a Boy property before. Can
you remember what we thought of it or anything?
I think we thought it was fine. My memory is that we were just like, it's a very sort of enjoyable, sort of generic sitcom, and it's nothing particularly special, but like, if you'd like a family sitcom, it's a good. In that they live next door to each other. She moves in next door to Will, and that's what brings them together. Is my memory of it, but it was just a really generic sitcom. It didn't really do anything of note. But yeah, there you go. Thought that was funny. Should we do Triv? Let's do the thing.
Let's triv it up.
Some trivia. Now, there's not much trivia for this film. You'll be happy to hear, Chris. And I'm trying to make a point now of when there's not a particularly interesting backstory to the film to not cover it. I think I've mostly avoided this, but there have definitely been a few films where, one or two, I think, where I've gone like deeper than I needed to because when the backstory wasn't that interesting. So High Fidelity had already come out, 2000, and had been a big hit. So they'd already adapted one Nick Hornby film successfully, and they were actually going to use that as the template because for those who don't know, High Fidelity, the adaptation, they moved it to America. They set it in America, they changed a bunch of the references, and they cast it with Americans. And High Fidelity is an amazing movie. We'll cover it on this podcast at some point, I'm sure. But the original pitch for About a Boy was to do the same thing. They were going to move it to the USA. One of the names that was originally attached as the lead was George Clooney. They talked about a few different directors. They were going to do Marco Brambilla, who made Demolition Man. Rob Cohen came up, but ultimately it just didn't happen. There's a funny thing as well where before they land on Clooney, they did look at Brad Pitt for the American version of this, but this is so good, Chris. It's so rare you get to hear how arrogant these people are. But Brad Pitt turned down the role. Do you want to know why he turned down the role, Chris?
Yeah, go on.
He found it implausible that someone so attractive would need to pretend to be a single father to meet women.
Is that true? Do you have a clip of him saying those
No, I
words?
don't, sadly. And I'll be honest with you, Chris. This is one of those incidents where I did want to double check this, and then I didn't want my heart to be broken. I was like a child that didn't want to find out whether Father Christmas is real or not, so I didn't look it up.
Yeah. That is stunning.
Although,
look, I mean,
go on.
Yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say he does sort of appear in the movie on a magazine cover, but like, yeah, isn't that funny to think about?
Yeah, does he?
Yeah.
Fair play. They do handle, because in a Hollywood movie that could be an issue, but they do actually handle that element of it quite well, don't they? Well, I guess they sort of change it, don't they? It's not that he. Well, in fact, they've made it worse in the movie, because what they've done, and they could have done this with Brad Pitt, is it's not like he can't get women. It's that the women are falling too in love with him, whereas he feels like single mums are more likely to dump him. Like you could.
Yeah,
arguably,
they're easy.
They address that issue.
They're easier to break
film.
up with, ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah, like this. At no point in this, because I was like, well, how have they made it work here? Because Hugh Grant is a good-looking man. Mm-hmm. They've made it work by that's not the point. Like the point isn't that he can't get women. Mm-hmm. And then the movie, quite rightly, I think, just moves away from that plot. Let's use that. Let's get Will in his life, and then let's sort of forget that.
Yeah, it's a bit more involved in the book, and a bit more threaded throughout. But right. He's a less likable character, I would say, in the book. But yeah, Hugh Grant does a great job managing that here, and the script balances it quite well. But yeah, that's very funny to me. It shows he didn't really read the script properly, assuming it was the same, because he doesn't pretend to be a single father to meet women. It's to meet a very particular kind of woman. But maybe the script he was reading at the time didn't have that element, and this is obviously the American version that they were going to do before they reworked it, so who knows. At some point Emma Thompson was offered a role. I'm going to assume that if she was and it didn't work out, it was Fiona. Obviously Emma Thompson would have been a great Fiona, but Toni Collette's also amazing, accent notwithstanding. Take a shot. So Chris Weitz, who ultimately directed this movie, was questioned as a choice, because a lot of people thought, why would an American direct a very English movie? But he's a massive Anglophile, but also he studied at Cambridge University, so had lived in England for many years, and was very familiar with English culture and sense of humour, and really got the film. So it wasn't actually a problem for him to direct it. No one in the production felt that way, even though that criticism was launched at the film when it was announced he was directing it. The shot of Will reflected in the mirror when he's depressed was actually just taken between takes. Hugh Grant was taking a break. The directors noticed him sort of staring into the distance, thought he looked depressed, so snuck the shot in without him knowing.
Says a lot, maybe, about how much Hugh Grant enjoyed making these well, I suppose this isn't a rom-com. He must have enjoyed this movie, I think, more than some of the movies he's made, surely. I think so. You'd hope, but yeah.
We've already covered this briefly, but the "No Man is an Island" quote is actually John Donne from 1600s. It's like meditation, something or other in the work. John Bon Jovi is quoting a famous thing. So "No Man is an Island" does not come from John Bon Jovi, as Will inaccurately states. There's a funny thing in this where at the beginning of the movie, Marcus says he would be able to take care of his mum if he were Haley Joel Osment. That's particularly funny in this case because Haley Joel Osment, famous for The Sixth Sense, who played his mother?
Toni Collette.
It was fucking Toni Collette.
Well, they do. It's a bit crass, so apologies, but they do a similar thing. I don't know, it's maybe in the Triv, but I really remember it. They do a similar gag, don't they, in Skins, where a character is engaging in lovemaking. I think it might even be Dev Patel's character, and he says that in order to last longer, he in his head names Hugh Grant films. And obviously you're there as an audience member going, well, Nicholas Hoult is Tony in Skins, but also was in a Hugh Grant film. and basically he climaxes, and then the voiceover narration says, "I always finish before I get to About a Boy."
Very good. That's funny. Yeah, a little meta joke. I do like that. Very good. When Will describes his web-based research as a unit of time, we see him going to a website called supermodelswithseethroughtops.com. This is a real website. It's a real website.
Oh god!
But it is simple white screen with just a picture of the Pope in his Pope-mobile, because it is a model of car with a see-through top, so you can see the Pope in it.
Well, that's the entire website.
Yep. Now,
phenomenal.
I saw that. I want credit for my my bravery here. I saw that trivia and was like, "Is that still the case? Do I risk going to this website and it's changed since then?" But it's still a picture of Pope John Paul II in his Pope-mobile. So yeah, supermodels with seethroughtops.com if you wish to also see that picture of the Pope. It's very funny.
Then why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why wouldn't
frankly?
you? Yeah, anyone would like a picture of the Pope. You could just Google Pope, I suppose, and see pictures of the Pope, but there you go. Now, this one's fun. So the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire clip at the beginning of the movie was created specifically for the film to have the John Bon Jovi moment in it. But do you want to know what's funny, Chris? They filmed it with a real audience in there during a real taping of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Do you want to know what episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire they were taping that night?
No, not the infamous cough scandal episode,
Yes.
surely.
The September the 10th, 2001
Wow.
episode, which was the same night as Major Charles Ingram's legendary 1 million fraudulent win. So that implies to me that maybe his wife was already in the crowd, because they filmed it pre then filming the real Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So arguably she's in the crowd in the About a Boy clip, because it was filmed the same night.
Wow.
Isn't that funny? For those who don't know,
That's just mad.
I should clarify, there's a big famous scandal in the UK where someone cheated on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They've made documentaries and dramas about it, and it's basically there was someone in the crowd coughing. It is a certain pattern to indicate what the answer was, and they were caught ultimately. I guess there's still questions as to whether they did or didn't, or whether it was just random coughs or whatever. But I mean, I think it's pretty well accepted at this point that the cheating did occur. But who knows? The drama certainly heavily implied that they definitely did. So, Well,
I was going to say there's an excellent. I'm trying to find the name of it, but there's an excellent ITV drama about it.
Yeah,
and
Quiz.
I think it is.
It's called Quiz.
Huh? It's called Quiz. Oh, sorry. Did you just name it? Sorry.
Yeah.
I think the most Dan and I have ever, or amongst the most Dan and I have ever disagreed on a show. Not whether we liked it or not, but that particular point of how much it implied or didn't imply he was cheating is something we were on opposite sides of, and that rarely happens.
Yeah, I think the episode was called The Great Quiz Debate.
Really?
It was episode 196. It was called The Great Quiz Debate. It was from 2020. Anyway, this was filmed.
Can I say something out of date about episode titles of Nothing But Static, but it will amuse you. So we just had a very political episode of Nothing But Static, and my cousin texted me, and he said in it, I'll save it for the end of the anecdote, but he said, "Oh, I really enjoyed," and then he gave the episode a name, and I thought you'd called it that, and I was a little bit gutted to discover you hadn't, because I think his idea was genius for what last week's episode could have been called.
What should it have been called?
So it was again, it was very political, and my cousin texted me and he said, "I really enjoyed listening to The Rest is Statics this week." That was a great title. So yeah, anyway,
I think I ended up calling it, "Please, sir, can I have some free speech, sir?"
I think you did, yeah, which was also good.
Yeah.
I think that clarifies what political topic we were talking about quite nicely. Anyway, back to About a Boy trivia.
Yes. So I thought that was very funny that it was filmed on the same night. That amused me to think about. There's Ali's room has a couple of bits of merch for the Arsenal Football Club. Nick Hornby, famously the author of the book, but famously a diehard Arsenal fan. When Will is hit with an apple while singing on stage, the apple was actually a sponge ball purchased from a local sports shop and painted to look like an apple. Pretty convincing, I thought, as those sort of things go. Let's do the last couple bits. Let's do some box office. So the movie cost $30 million to make, Chris. 30. And I've got to imagine a big chunk of that is going into Hugh Grant's pocket, right? He was a big deal. Particularly, this would have been sort of the height of his sort of fame and value, right? Like you add him to the movie, you know you're putting butts in seats, right? His very handsome face on a poster is selling tickets, regardless of the quality of the movie, right? So it's a good investment. So the 30 million budget, what do you think the global return is, just in cinemas? Have a guess.
60. I imagine it made a tidy profit.
I think that's a very fair guess and probably similar to what I would have guessed. The answer is 130 million.
Jesus.
I know, right? The movie made 130 million at the global box office. And that doesn't consider, obviously, what then occurs, which is obviously years of DVD sales. And I think this is a pretty popular video/DVD to pick up. And then streaming rights, which, you know, this movie's a massive hit no matter how you slice it. 30 million budget. This has returned that over and over again over a long period of time. So yes, very successful.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
Because that doesn't, I don't mean to be, you know, I'm not, and obviously I don't know the numbers, we'd have to maybe compare, but it feels like a fair film to compare it to is, say, Notting Hill.
Right.
But I don't mean to be rude to Tony Collette and Nicholas Hoult, but they weren't Julia Roberts. Do you know what I mean? Like, that seems...
Yeah.
That seems mad.
Let's look at how Notting Hill did. I'm going to pull that up. Notting Hill, let's see. Notting Hill, here it is. So budget for Notting Hill was 42 million. And, to be fair, its gross was 364. So...
Wow.
That did even better, to be fair.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a better... Hold on. Acting credits. Here we go. Hugh Grant filmography. Okay, let's look at this, right. So, About a Boy comes out in 2002. I suppose Love Actually is going to be big, isn't it? Because it's just got this huge array of stars. So, Love Actually, according to... I'm doing Wikipedia, by the way, is 40 million budget, 250 million made. I mean, you got to... Right, okay, 2 weeks' notice. Here's a good testament to, right, how big was Hugh Grant's draw.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking hell, budget for 2 weeks' notice, 60 million. Box office, 199 million.
With that context, I will say, About a Boy looking like a modest hit. To be fair.
Yeah, but it's still a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and but what I'm saying is,
yes,
and I know we sort of addressed it. I know we led into it with this, but what I'm saying is, at the time, man, Hugh Grant is quite a box office draw. It would seem.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's not, and I will say, it's not just that he's handsome. Obviously, he's very handsome, but he's clearly very charming, and I think, you know, he's very good at just sort of tapping into sort of like bumbling British charm, like that sort of like, you know, I think Family Guy did a parody of him where he was just like, I'm just so charmingly befuddled, you know, and I think that is it. He's just sort of like, there's something very likable about him and
even
his way. I think audiences particularly, I think that the trick with Hugh Grant was he was a big hit over here, but they also really liked him in the States.
I think even a film that we named as being like an example of not strong work, music and lyrics, budget 40 million, box office 145.9 million.
Does not surprise me.
This is mad.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, if you'd have asked me if it had done well at the box office, I'd have said yes, because both Drew Barrymore and Hugh Grant, you know, I think are draws, regardless of the quality of the film.
So things start falling around Did You Hear About the Morgans, which was 58 million, 85 million box office. So still made money, but yeah.
Yeah, probably not very much. Wow. That probably closer to broke even because of the marketing costs. But yeah, very good. There you go. And let's have a look. Oh yeah, it's time for Cars Exist.
Meow.
So there's not much to say about the cars in this, but Will does drive a pretty iconic car. It is, of course, the 2000 Audi TT. So this, at the time, was a relatively new car, and it is quite an expensive and very sort of famous car. I mean, yeah, the Audi TT was like the car that kids at my school lied that their parents drove. so I remember a friend of mine. I'll say his first name. I won't say his second name. Tom absolutely insisted his uncle drove it. Absolutely, and eventually his uncle picked him up from school, and he did not appear in an Audi TT. I just want to make that point.
What a day that must have been for the rest of you.
Well, I'll be honest with you, it was better. The next day was the real joy, because obviously he gets in the car and goes, knowing that he's about to get annihilated. The fun day.
You can imagine.
The day after was the day. That was
young Dan just in the corner reading a Nick Hornby book.
Yeah. No, me in the corner pre-writing all of my jokes for the next day. Anyway, right. So yeah, that's the movie. Look, I mean, look, it's a classic for a reason. It is a brilliant British sort of romantic-ish comedy with that style, but it has quite a lot of heart and a lot of depth, and tackles topics that those kinds of movies generally didn't. And I admit a lot of that is obviously coming from a very good book that you should also read. But if you aren't willing to read a book, this film's great, and you absolutely should see this film. I think this is a film people should have seen, and I am pleasantly surprised how well it held up. Because again, there's always a risk something like this goes quite pear-shaped. Adapting books is not easy, especially into films. They very rarely fit as they are, and where you make changes and where you snip and where you adjust will make or break your adaptation, I think. And I think the creators of this particular film, and particularly the writers, who we haven't really named, but it was Peter Hedges, Chris Weitz, and Paul Weitz all worked on the script, and they did a really good job, I think, handling that. And I think without that, then the film is probably a bit of a mess, to be honest with you. So I think most of the credit goes to them for being very smart about what they kept and what they didn't keep from the book. But
yeah, I'd agree with that. I echo those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, Dan,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not for us technically, because as mentioned, it's August. But I believe
It's August?
is it Christmas time, Dan?
Well, it is.
Oh, sorry, it's not August. Sorry,
Yeah, well,
it's October.
you
Yeah,
just-
you're right.
you
Sorry,
just- you
we
just
last recorded in
took
August.
2 months
Yeah.
off my life. August was when we last recorded.
Sorry. Yes, but I believe it's October, but it's Christmas, right?
It is Christmas. It's Christmas time. And it's my choice.
That's exciting.
Yeah, the yearly tradition of Chris and I having to watch a Christmas film several months before Christmas is anywhere near happening. But yes, I think there's a film that we have often discussed, Chris, and you already know what this is. We should make this clear. We've kind of already figured out the rest of this series of Rewind reviews. So there won't be. I'm going to save Chris the pretense of being like, oh, what a surprising choice, Dan. He's not going to have to pretend. We ended up discussing it for a couple of reasons, and it meant that we kind of gave away what we were going to pick. Because I said, we had a conversation. I was kind of thinking like, God, there's a classic that I need to pick because there's this discussion.
Well,
and Chris sort of said he wanted to pick Jess's favorite Christmas film. So it kind of laid it out, and then we knew what the trilogy was. So it kind of really didn't leave us with. The rest of this season of Rewind Reviews is pretty much decided before we've gotten to it.
Yes, yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's not just the Christmas movies. We basically know where we're going for the rest of the season, so that there won't be any surprises.
No, not for. There won't be any surprises for us, but for the listeners, this film that I'm choosing for next week, I'm choosing because Chris and I have often discussed this film. And the discussion has often gone with, like, along the lines of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris, because maybe I am misremembering, but Chris sort of thinks the film is fine, but doesn't really understand why it's a Christmas classic the way it is, and he has never really felt the love for it that other people in his life have. Is that fair?
Historically, that has been the case, but I go into this going, I think I'm probably wrong, and I'm so excited to rewatch it. Because I suspect I am going to watch it and go, oh no, that is a Christmas classic. But yes, historically, I've been like, I don't understand why people treat this film like it was the last classic Christmas movie when I don't think it necessarily is. I think I'm wrong, and that's exciting to go into it. Yeah.
So I should clarify: the film in question is the 2001 Christmas classic, Elf. Is it 2001? When did Elf come out? Oh, 2003. That's 2 years later than I thought, Chris. Oh, wow. Yeah, we're going to watch Elf. And I think as well, the last Christmas classic thing kind of... Well, it probably is. I think that's still probably true. Because I would say there is a better Christmas film that's come out since this one. But unfortunately, it is not... it didn't reach the wide audience it deserved to, and that's Klaus. Which remains my favorite modern Christmas film. But I love Elf. Nadia loves it a little more than I do, but I do think it's a really great film, and I've been happy to rewatch it most Christmases for the last 10 years or so, because like I said, Nadia usually wants to put it on.
Does her love of the movie mean she's happy to watch it in October?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I suppose Christmas is going to be a bit different for you guys anyway this year. You probably they don't really celebrate Christmas in South Korea.
No, they don't, which is going to be a shame because I've been reassured that snow is extremely common in winter in South Korea. Like it snows every year basically here, whereas in the UK snow is like a treat we sometimes get because of climate change. I feel like if you go back 50 plus years, the UK got snow more consistently in the winter, particularly in the north of the country. That doesn't seem to happen as often now. Now it's like a real pleasant surprise. Yet you look at any these like Dickens films and whatever, and it's fucking always snowing in December. Dickens books. Sorry, we're doing a film review podcast, and I think I've got movies on the brain. But yeah, you read all those old Dickens books. It's always fucking snowing. So either that was just a romanticized look at it, or it did snow a lot more back in those days. And I suspect I know the answer. But anyway, my point is, apparently it's going to be very Christmassy feeling because we're going to be dealing with a lot of snow during the winter period. Yeah, a lot of people have already warned us about the challenges of heating a Korean home. So that's going to be interesting.
Blimey.
I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, we're gonna do Elf. I think I'm excited about it. No, I am excited about it. I think it'd be fun to see, and I know that the movie has some interesting history, and it's a shame that no one's ever really talked about it, but there's always been swirling rumors that Will Ferrell and Jon Favreau didn't get on too well on the set of this movie, but there's never been anything concrete, so I'm like, I won't be able to really talk about that because there's nothing factual, but I do find it interesting to think about.
Did Jon Favreau direct then?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Jon Favreau is the director on this movie, so I'm excited. But I look forward to rewatching it. Will Ferrell's fucking delightful in this movie, so at the very least, I think there's a good performance, a really special performance at the heart of this one. So I think even if Chris, you feel the same way that you felt last time you watched this, which is you don't understand why people talk about it like it's the last Christmas classic because it doesn't fit that bill for you. I still think at the very least you're going to walk away appreciating what Farrell is doing on screen because he's amazing in this movie.
I think I'm wrong. I'm going. I think I'm wrong about this.
I don't know, man. I don't want you to go in with too high expectations either because then you're not going to meet that standard. Let's be. I mean, if that's how you felt about it last time, you may very well end up feeling the same way. I hope your theory is correct that will change, but let's not rule out the possibility that is just how you feel about the film Elf.
Well, and you've never watched it with a critical eye. You might change your view on the movie.
100%. 100%. I've never sat down and analysed the movie at all. I've only ever put it on and just casually enjoyed it from a very, Christmassy, just I'll put it on because it's a good one to watch. And I've done the viewings where I've watched it just with me and Nadia, and I've done the viewings where I've watched it we've put it on at her house at Christmas with her family around, and I've watched this movie in a million different ways. So it's and I've always had a good time with it. But again, you're right. Critical hat goes on. Maybe it's super flawed. Maybe there's tons of stuff that's broken with the movie. So yeah, we'll find out. But anyway, we've talked for too long. This episode has somehow been over 2 hours long, 2 hours and 20 minutes long, which is or 2020, 2015 maybe long. But that's too long for this
longer,
movie.
Significantly longer than the movie.
Yeah, how have we talked about the movie for an hour longer than the movie itself? That's fucked. Like, that's so fucked. So,
well, we talked about. I think, Dan. We talked about the budget, the box office returns for every Hugh Grant movie from the noughties, and All American Rejects for quite a while.
That's true. And then we talked about Elf for a long time, considering that the review of Elf is next week.
Yeah. Also very true.
Mm-hmm. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it next week. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. If you want to get in touch and complain about the way this podcast usually goes, which is us talking too much about things that aren't relevant, feel free to send those thoughts to mail@nothingbutstatic.co.uk. If you've got the other side of that thought and you've got lots of opinions on the music of All American Rejects, feel free to get in touch with us at mail@nothingbutstatic.co.uk. These podcasts are posted on YouTube, so if you want to support us, you can go over to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/nothingbutstatic UK to subscribe, like them, hit the bell, all that stuff, comment. That all helps with algorithms. Also, another way you can support us by telling algorithms that you enjoy our work, and then it makes it more likely to share it with others, is whatever platform you listen to this on, if it's Spotify or iTunes, find how they do reviews, whether it's hearts or likes or stars or whatever, and interact with the podcast that way, because that also makes the algorithm more likely to share it with other people. We do need to please the algorithm gods. I say we need to. We would like to, because again, it's nice. We have a nice little audience here, and we hope to continue for it to grow, and other people who are like-minded to find it. The other thing you can do, you can head over to the Patreon, patreon.com/nothingbutstatic, where you can get episodes of this very podcast 1 week ahead of their usual release. So if you want to hear us talking about Elf right now, patreon.com/nothingbutstatic will allow you to do that. We'll also give you access to our Discord and our special Yellow Lounge, which is where I post the list of all the films we're covering on Rewind Reviews, often weeks, if not months, before they actually air. So if you want to know what's in the upcoming season of Rewind Reviews, you can often find out there what we're covering. And also interact with us if you're that way inclined. So yeah, that's all the ways in which, obviously, keep listening. That's the other way you can support what we do. Because we always say with the Patreon, only do that. It is for as little as $1 a month, but only do that if that's an amount you would not miss. Do you know what I mean? If you cannot afford that, then absolutely cancel it immediately. I don't want anyone giving us a penny they can't afford to give us. Like, that is ridiculous. Please do not do that. So yeah, that is, I make that as clear as I can. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening. I guess, we'll see you in a week's time for the Elf. Yeah, I'm going to hand over to Chris, because he ends this thing.
My name's Chris Billingham.
My name's Dan Doonan.
And this review has been rewound.